Let's get peppy. Welcome to PEP 227. This is PEP or Planet Extra podcast. I am Chesler Chidello, a host of Planet America on ABC Australia, and this is an official podcast of the ABC. So say hi to the Ombudsman for me. On PEP, we cover all the stuff that's too nerdy for TV. If you're listening, you can find us on YouTube at the PEP with Chaz and Dr. Dave channel, and you can find us on Facebook at the Chaz from Planet America channel, and you'll also find timestamps and show notes in our blurbs. And if you leave a comment under our current episode video, we're likely to see it. You can also tweet us or blue sky us at PEPCHASDRDAVE. That's at PepChaz. Dr. Dave, if you want to chat to some fellow Peppers, you can join our Discord server. It's on the screen now or in the blurb of the podcast. If you want to contact me or Lockie the Lucky privately, why not email us? The address is producer@pepthepodcast.com. That address again is producer@pepthepodcast.com. And do not forget to subscribe for all that peppy goodness. It all helps. Hope you're enjoying the clips, by the way. Well done, Lockie, on them this week. So he's starting to send through some clips on the main channel. And we are recording this at 1:57 p.m. on a Thursday. Sorry, Bill Wyman, I know this is breaking all the rules. That's 11:57 p.m. Wednesday, New York time, and 8:57 p.m. Wednesday, LA time. But for now, let's turn to the man who'll never raise the stakes in inconsequential views. I talk of Dr. Pepper himself, Dr. David Smith.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Smith, and I am an associate professor at the US Study Centre at the University of Sydney. However, I do not speak for either of those institutions. When I pep only on my own behalf. And I can't believe that I've got to do this for a second week in a row. But Chaz and I, for those of you watching the video, are actually not colour coordinating. We're not trying to communicate any message by wearing shirts of roughly the same colour. Last week, some of you may be aware, we made this new landing page video for people who were coming to PEP for the first time to get an idea of what we were about. I hope that no one came away with the impression that dressing in the same colours is our thing. Because while it does happen sometimes coincidentally, we're not trying to do it. I'm just trying to save you any future disappointment for the inevitable day that we turn up in different colours.
We are the B1 and B2 of nerdery. You might not be speaking for the University of Sydney, but you are speaking for me for anything that's happened in the last 14 hours, Dave.
Okay.
That's what I'm up to in my reading.
Yep.
Let's start, though, with what you are grateful for, Dr.
Well,
David Smith.
it's something that has happened in the last 14 hours.
See, I'm learning.
It's a report from the Danish public broadcaster that Denmark has summoned the US Chargé d'Affaires, Robert Stroh, to tell him to stop internally meddling in Greenland. Now,
I bet I know what this is about.
Yeah. Now, look, what I'm grateful for is of all the things that Trump has promised to bring back and brought back, he has brought back absolute amateur hour intelligence operations.
Yes, I read about this potentially happening like 3 months ago, and then they just disappeared.
Because the Wall Street Journal reported that intelligence services have been told to up their game in Greenland.
Yes.
Boy, did they ever up their game. According to this report from the Danish public broadcaster, there have apparently been 3 American operatives in Greenland trying to build networks of pro-Trump supporters, making secret contact with independence movements, and generally trying to weaken Denmark's association with Greenland. Now, where this clever scheme all seems to have fallen apart is that according to the report, one of the people who's been skulking around Greenland doing this is somebody who has, quote, been seen in public with Trump many times and recently appointed to a position of significant foreign policy influence. Which kind of wasn't good for the whole secrecy element of it. Now, I don't know who this was.
Oh, damn it.
Like, there are certain people we can rule out. So, seen in public with Trump many times, that rules out his sons.
Tiffany gone.
Yeah. Possibly Laura Loomer. I don't know. But anyway, apparently there was this meeting, which I can imagine it would have had the tone of someone kind of wearily telling their dog not to do something for the millionth time. Like, don't. Don't. Anyway, I expect that we're going to see a lot more of that. Hopefully there'll be some truly wacky capers in this rebirth of amateur hour intelligence.
Let me tell you, this sort of 2-3 spy scenario is very rich in capers.
Yes.
As I'm a little bit older than you, Dave, so you might not remember this, but in my deepest, darkest memories of the early 80s, I remember every second show at 7:30 at night were spies, often in love,
Yes.
undertaking capers.
Yes.
And that kind of TV show just disappeared in the mid-80s.
It did.
But it's time for it to return.
Clearly it never disappeared from Trump's mind.
he does resurrect the 80s.
Yes.
I tell you what I'm thinking, though. I'm not thinking about that. And I don't want you to disabuse me of this notion.
Okay.
I'm imagining a couple
Yep.
in Greenland,
Yes.
if you will, Americans.
Yes.
The Americans, perhaps.
Yes.
I'm imagining them constantly, every day, going to a different place, trying to convince people to switch over, wearing a different fake moustache. Just like they do on the Americans. the least convincing disguises in the history of surveillance in that show. I'm imagining just with the really, really obvious fake teeth, the terrible moustaches, the awful wigs. That's what I want to imagine.
Then the moustache falls off. They're like, oh no. And then next thing you know, they're running away from a team of angry huskies chasing them. Yes.
I'd like to think that this celebrity person, whoever they were, was spotted because they literally just took the bottom of a mop and put it on their head and got caught out. But anyway, that's great stuff, Dave. That's good stuff. Thing to be grateful for. I'll tell you what I'm grateful for. This will surprise you. If I asked you to guess who was responsible for this thing I'm grateful for, we'd spend the entire 3 hours guessing who I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because the answer is Tulsi Gabbard.
Wow.
She has not been kicking a lot of goals lately, Tulsi Gabbard, to say the least. But she tweeted this out this week, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I like to give credit where it's due. So I'm going to give it now. This is what she tweeted out. Over the past few months, I've been working closely with our partners in the UK alongside the President and the Vice President to ensure Americans' private data remains private and our constitutional rights and civil liberties are protected. As a result, the UK has agreed to drop its mandate for Apple to provide a backdoor that would have enabled access to the protected encrypted data of American citizens and encroached on our civil liberties. That is great. Because it's not just for Americans, that's for everyone. If there's a backdoor, it's a backdoor for everyone. The UK wanted Apple to agree to this backdoor to their operating system to allow police to foil terrorism, like the classic 24 type scenario, protect the children, etc., etc. You've heard it all before. I got no idea how many times those ticking time bomb scenarios actually arise. I got a sneaking suspicion it's never, but maybe it's sometimes.
If any peppers are aware of any documented cases of literal ticking time bomb scenarios,
some of you might be terrorists. If any peppers from Al Qaeda, please let us know.
Please don't incriminate yourself on an official ABC podcast. But just if you've got any ideas, let us know.
Yeah, look, if you do know of any, do let us know. I'll tell you, I don't know how many there are, but I do know how often hackers try to find vulnerabilities to exploit.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is literally every damn second.
Yes.
So I think I know where the numbers lie.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about the back doors so much. Also, those fictional terrorists, that you're trying to foil, the UK police, should they exist one day, they would love to have a backdoor to exploit for cyber terrorism purposes. I would have thought.
Yes.
They'd love a backdoor. Never mind the question of how much you can trust the government. Like, I'm not even getting into that. I mean, I care about that as well.
Yes.
But that's a lot of power to trust the government with. But leaving that aside, let's say they're perfectly trustworthy. The bad guys like backdoors more than the good guys do. So anyway, I'm grateful to Tulsi Gabbard if she is partly responsible for that happening.
Okay.
That's good work.
Yep.
And while I'm at it, while I'm feeling generous, I'll also thank Senator Ron Wyden, who goes on about this all the time.
Oh, he does, yes, yep.
And I know I'm going to cop it. JD Vance goes on about this as well. So I'll give credit to all three of them.
JD Vance is just copying what more popular people say.
Yeah, probably. Probably. That's okay.
Yes.
But I'm in a generous mood.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to you all.
Okay.
And I'm also grateful, just a little one, to Alex for comforting me after the Dogs got predictably done. Like I said they would. As soon as I mention them on Pep, they always lose. It's becoming a tradition for the Dogs to lose either in the final week before the finals or the first week of the finals and get spanked. But look, I was low, but thank you to Alex for getting me through that life storm. I did enjoy that. I'm glad it happened. Anything but calm seas, but still another premiership would be nice. Next year. Dave, why don't we get into... Oh, yeah, actually, a little correspondence for you.
Okay.
From TJ about Ukraine. TJ noted that Putin worried about NATO on his doorstep, which you referred to.
Yes.
He said it's a bit of a furphy, because he said Putin's only bothered by select states receiving membership on its boundary.
Right, yep.
Finland joined NATO after a month-long process, massively expanding its border with Russia with barely a whimper from Putin.
Yeah, but he was already pretty engaged in the Ukraine war by that point. Look, I get the point that you're making, and certainly it's former Soviet republics that he gets most upset about being part of NATO. So, yeah, I can imagine he does get more worried about some states than others. I think that it's what he sees as the encroachment on historical Greater Russia. That is the bigger problem. Yes.
And apologies to Charles Firth for calling it a Firthy rather than a Furphy. It's got Firth on the mind.
I just want to add something, by the way. So last week I mentioned Jeffrey Blaney's book, The Causes of War. My friend and Pepper Stewart pointed out to me there is a new edition of The Causes of War coming out, or maybe it's already out, because Jeffrey Blaney is still alive. He's 95 years old, and he's been working on a second edition. Now, I can't vouch for the second edition. I read the first edition, which was written more than 50 years ago, and I read that 20 years ago, and I have not read any of Jeffrey Blaney's contemporary commentary on it, but Jeffrey Blaney has actually written stuff on the Ukraine war. So you can go and read that if you want. I haven't actually read it. I'm sure you'll find it actually contradicts what I've said. I'm just going off my interpretation of the causes of war. But who knows? I haven't actually read it. But just to let people know, if they're interested on getting Blaney's take on it rather than my take on Blaney's take, it's out there.
There you go. Even if it's complete rubbish, it made a good pep clip. So thanks for that, Dave.
Good.
Right. Let's get some updates going. Let me just say, there's a bit of a theme to today's pep. The theme is authoritarianism. This week's been a big week for authoritarianism. It has
been a very big week for authoritarianism.
Trump has really stepped it up, I've got to say.
He has.
Like in terms of, I know the frog in the boiling pot thing isn't actually true.
No.
But as far as analogies go, this week felt very frog. Very fictional frog.
Okay, yes.
To me. So many stories. And all of the ones which we're covering have that link.
Yes.
So let's start with an update on state capitalism. And you might go, what's that got to do with authoritarianism?
You might also be thinking when you see state capitalism there, like, oh, is this an exciting trivia quiz? Like, what's the capital of North Dakota? Unfortunately not. But do you know the capital of North Dakota?
Bismarck?
Bismarck is correct.
Woo!
Okay, there will be more state capitals coming up.
Oh, no. I haven't looked at these for decades, Dave.
Yeah, well...
Oh, God.
That's the point of trivia, Chase.
I was feeling so good about the fact
you
I knew
don't
I
get
knew
the
that
questions
one.
in advance.
Damn it. Oh, God. Okay. Look, the Intel deal that we spoke about before last week has been confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Trump tweeted out, "It is my great honor to report that the United States of America now fully owns and controls 10% of Intel, a great American company that has an even more incredible future. I negotiated this deal with Lip-Bu Tan, the highly respected chief executive officer of the company." Sorry. Let me just stop for a second. The highly respected chief executive officer of the company, literally a week ago, he posted the CEO of Intel is highly conflicted and must resign immediately. But now he's the highly respected chief executive officer of the company. The United States paid nothing for these shares, and the shares are now valued at approximately $11 billion. This is a great deal for America and also a great deal for Intel. Building leading-edge semiconductors and chips, which is what Intel does, is fundamental to the future of our nation. Make America great again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Drake. All right. So did they actually pay nothing for these shares like Trump claims? Depends on your definition. $8.9 billion of that $11 billion is an investment by the government.
Right.
$5.7 billion is previously awarded grants. So theoretically, yeah, like Trump hasn't paid for that, but Joe Biden did pay for it. It's from the CHIPS Act, that is.
Yep.
And $3.2 billion awarded to the company as part of the Secure Enclave program, which is a national security project. I think they're paying for that.
Yes.
So I think that by definition, that is paying for it.
Yes.
Unless you count it as separate.
And so for those of you who might not have heard us talking about this last week, what the US is doing here is basically claiming an equity stake based on money that it has invested or given to Intel.
And there's $2.2 billion more from the CHIPS Act that was already granted.
Yes.
That they've already got. Yeah, so go on,
Yeah. So, no, it's not like he just strong-armed Intel into handing over 10% of its shares.
Well, you say that.
Well, there was definite strong-arming going on, but it was strong-arming into, this. It wasn't outright theft. Let me put it that way.
That's fair. It's not theft. But, I mean, let's just hear how Trump himself describes what happened.
Yes, yeah.
He walked in wanting to keep his job, and he ended up giving us $10 billion for the United States. So we picked up $10 billion.
That sounds pretty strong in arm.
Yes, except they actually gave him $10 billion and they got an equity stake in return.
Look, I mean, I'd call it a shakedown, but, it's a light shakedown.
Look, yes.
It's a pleasant shakedown. Also, the price they paid was a bit of a discount. They got 433 million primary shares of Intel stock at the price of $20.47 per share. The closing price on Friday was $24.80. But to be fair, $20.47 was the level 3 weeks ago when they were probably negotiating this.
Yes.
So there is that.
What does the average American actually get out of this equity stake? What does the average American get out of the government taking a cut of NVIDIA's sales to China? Okay. What do they actually get out of it?
Are you asking?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would say apart from the off chance that they sell those shares and then they make a profit. That aside, I mean, there's not much money in the context of the government.
No.
The one thing that they would argue, both in the case of NVIDIA and in the case of Intel, is ensuring that America continues to have access to the best technology for AI chips.
Right.
In particular, in the case of Intel, there was a rider on the deal where the government could buy 5% more at a discount rate of the company if they don't continue to have 51% Intel, have 51% of a foundry, which produces more silicon chips.
Right.
So they're basically incentivizing Intel to, even if it's not a good business case, to keep on producing chips in America.
Right.
Because those foundries sell the chips from America to other companies.
Right.
So that is the one thing that they would argue America gets out of it.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever any actual danger of the US losing access to those chips. What national security types are really upset about with both of these deals is that, so the pretext of this was that the CEO is too close to China.
Yeah.
If that were actually true, which I don't think it is, the solution to that problem, if you're national security minded, is not government takes a fairly meaningless equity stake in the company. They're really upset about the NVIDIA one. So this is a change from the Biden doctrine of the small yard and the high fence, which was the idea that certain technology was just to be kept off limits to China at all. This is saying that, no, we're not going to keep it off limits, but we're going to take a cut of whatever gets sold to China. Once again,
that's NVIDIA,
Yeah, from a national security perspective, that makes no sense whatsoever. Now, it does make sense from other perspectives. It actually makes sense if you want to build positive relations with China, which I don't see as a bad thing at all. But for a government that pretends to be security-minded about this, and certainly for the national security types within the government, what the US is getting out of this really seems to be very, very trivial compared to what other countries, i.e. China, are getting out of this.
Yeah, to be clear, what I was referring to before was Intel. I shouldn't have looped NVIDIA in there because it's got nothing to do with NVIDIA.
Yeah.
NVIDIA
but I just wanted to make this point.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
This is emerging as a Trump way of doing things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm about to play you another clip on that.
Yes.
As far as NVIDIA goes, literally the only thing a taxpayer gets is, apart from tiny amounts of money, is a PR experience for Trump.
Yes.
Which I don't think a taxpayer really cares about. Okay, so what are the problems with this then? The Intel one I'm talking about, not the NVIDIA. The NVIDIA problems are obvious.
Yes.
But the Intel one, they might go, what's wrong with the government taking a slice? They're non-voting shares.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Yep.
Apparently there are exceptions. But I don't know what they are. But let's just assume they're going to be almost always non-voting shares.
Yeah. See, can I just say, I would have actually, if I were making the argument for taking an equity stake, I'd want to take a voting stake.
Okay.
Right? The government actually having some control over the company, that could make sense from a national security point of view or from other viewpoints.
Yeah. Just
having a bunch of shares doesn't make much sense to me at all.
Well, that's what they're doing. Okay, but the arguments against are, number one, it means Intel's decisions will increasingly be driven by political considerations rather than commercial considerations.
Yep.
Because the government's got a piece of them. Also, it's the competitors to Intel. If they're competing against a government partly owned corporation, that is going to probably place them at a disadvantage when it comes to government contracts and subsidies. And it's also open-ended. There's no sunset clause. Like Barack Obama did this kind of thing with car companies very briefly, but then they sold the shares when the car company was okay.
Yeah.
That's not the case here. This is open-ended. This is forever. The government's just stuck in there. But the big thing, as far as I can see, is that, especially with a situation where the disadvantage to competitors, this could discourage other companies from even trying to compete with Intel. And given ostensibly they're trying to promote the local chip industry, if you discourage competitors to Intel, that's not a great way to make the industry grow.
No, it's not.
And to make the industry thrive. And what it is a recipe for Intel to become increasingly mediocre and uncompetitive internationally, and to actually throttle the industry in America, as far as I can see.
Yeah. No, this has been very poorly thought out.
Yeah.
But from Trump's point of view, the thing that matters is, we got him to hand over 10%. It's points. It's all about the points.
Yeah, it's about winning. You got to be tired of winning. But like I said, I did flag there'd be a clip coming. They're already, and admittedly, this came up in an interview. This wasn't Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who brought this up.
Yep.
This was the interviewer who brought it up. But just look how ready Howard Lutnick was for this question, asking about them expanding it to other companies.
Yes.
Why shouldn't the U.S. government say, you know what, we use Palantir services, we would like a piece of Palantir. We use Boeing services, we would like a piece of Boeing. There are a lot of businesses that do business with the U.S. government that benefit by doing business with the U.S. government. I guess the question is, where's the line?
There's a monstrous discussion about defense. I mean, Lockheed Martin makes 97% of their revenue from the U.S. government. They are basically an arm of the U.S. government. They make exquisite munitions. I mean, amazing things that can knock a missile out of the air when it's coming towards you. But what's the economics of that? I'm going to leave that to my Secretary of Defense and the Deputy Secretary of Defense. These guys are on it, and they're thinking about it.
Now, look, he didn't make any commitments, but look how delighted he was when he reported, it's a monstrous decision.
It's a monstrous discussion. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How many times has anyone ever said, well, let's leave the economics of that to Pete Hegseth?
Yes. Probably the person who negotiated his settlement said that. But anyway, got anything else to say about that update?
No.
Okay, Trump legal update.
Yes.
By the way, the reason that it was authoritarianism is because obviously it's about taking over companies. Recall, Trump was found guilty of overvaluing his assets by up to $2.2 billion to gain favourable terms from lenders between 2014 and 2021.
Yes, this was a civil judgment, by the way.
Civil judgment, indeed. It was actually a $355 million fine that was leveraged on him, but with interest and extra penalties for his family, that came to $527 million American. Now, this week, the New York Times Appeals Court vacated the entire fine.
New York Appeals Court. The New York Times
sorry, what an idiot.
doesn't have its own appeals court,
But
it should.
it's a great idea.
It really should, especially its games section.
I was about to say, there have been some calls made during those games. I would like to appeal.
Yeah.
Especially in connections. Some of those connections are extremely dubious. I would like a board to appeal to.
I actually liked the one that everyone hated. But anyway.
Anyway, New York Appeals Court. That's their Supreme Court. No,
Yes.
sorry. So the Appeals Court is the one below the Supreme Court. They vacated the entire fine. It wasn't this week, it was last week. And there were 3 opinions in one. One set of opinions there were 2 judges, Judge Renwick and Judge Moulton. They're both Democratic appointed.
Yep.
They said Trump was properly held liable for business fraud. No problems.
Yep.
But the fine was excessive.
Yes.
That's what they said. Quote, while harm certainly occurred, it was not the cataclysmic harm that can justify a nearly $500 million award to the state. I don't know if you agree with that. I do.
Well, I remember the argument, and this wasn't an argument against the fact that he'd committed fraud, but their argument that the banks hadn't been harmed at all and they hadn't reported any harm and they hadn't wanted any kind of redress, I can certainly imagine that would be a factor in determining the fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
They said it's a virtue of the statute that the Attorney General may act, as she did in this case, before a potential catastrophe occurs to deter further fraudulent business behaviour by defendants specifically and to police market behaviour generally.
Yep.
However, having achieved these goals, the state's not entitled to compound its victory with a massive punitive fine. They said the question is the fine punitive or remedial? And they said the fact the fine was paid to New York and not to the victims suggests it was punitive.
Yep.
Also, they note the fine was way bigger than the actual harm caused, which also suggested it was punitive. They also said the fine was calculated on total profits.
Yeah.
Not on illegally gained profits, which also makes it seem excessive.
Yep.
So those 2 were saying, get rid of the fine, but keep the conviction.
Yep.
Well, not the conviction, the finding.
Yes.
Yeah. The second kind of opinion, there were 2 judges, Judge Higgett and Judge Rosado, who are also Democratic appointed. This is New York.
Yes.
This is the New York Times. They said Letitia James had the authority to file the case, no problems, but they felt James hadn't actually fully proven the case.
Ah, okay.
And they wanted to provide Trump with a new trial. But they felt this was a special case because Trump's president, so he can't really have a proper new trial. And so they said, in this case, they felt they should let the fraud judgment stand and allow it to move to a higher appeals court if Trump wants to. So they said after much consideration with great reluctance, they let it just go.
Did he actually appeal this one?
Yes, he did.
I'm pretty sure he did.
He did. He appealed it straight after.
Yes.
Which we'll get to. And the third kind of judgment was one judge, David Friedman, who was Republican appointed. He said the New York Attorney General should not have brought the case in the first place. Quote, plainly, her ultimate goal was not market hygiene, but political hygiene, ending with the derailment of President Trump's political career and the destruction of his real estate business, is what he says. He said if any of Trump's lenders actually felt cheated, they could have easily sued him themselves, and none chose to. So there are 3 kinds of judgment.
Yep.
Right. If you're counting the numbers there, all 5 got rid of the fine, which is why there's no fine. But you only had 1 judge voting to actually vacate the fraud finding.
Yes.
But even though 3 of the 5 judges felt that James hadn't proven her case, they couldn't agree on what to do about it. So the other 2 deserted the one. So majority didn't overturn the fraud verdict. They allowed it to be appealed to a high court. There were other penalties as well. There's the banning of Trump from serving the top role in the New York company for 3 years, and his 2 eldest sons from running the business for 2 years. That was placed on hold during the appeals. It's still on hold, but hasn't been overturned.
Right.
Also, there's an independent monitor for the Trump organization's business practices already in place. That is staying in place.
Yep.
So both sides could appeal it to the Court of Appeals, and that is the state Supreme Court in New York. Trump already has. Why I call this authoritarian? It's because of how Trump reacted.
Yes.
The most extreme banana republic style gaslighting, even by Trump standards. Total inability to accept any questioning of his actions. This is what he tweeted out. Total victory in the fake New York State Attorney General Letitia James case. I greatly respect the fact the court had the courage to throw out this unlawful and disgraceful decision that was hurting business all throughout the New York State. This was a case of election interference by the city and state trying to show illegally that I did things that were wrong, when in fact everything I did was absolutely correct and even perfect. Every single dollar was thrown out, even the penalties imposed on us by the corrupt judge, one of the most overturned in history, Arthur Engeron. Importantly, the vote was 5-0. I am so honoured by Justice David Friedman's great words of wisdom, which should be read by everyone. David Friedman, remember, was the one judge out of 5 who thought the whole legal action was rubbish. Most definitely was not total victory or 5-0. Two of them,
and it wasn't thrown out.
It definitely was not.
If it had been thrown out, he wouldn't be appealing it.
Yeah, well, this is where I was going. Not even Friedman, by the way, suggests his conduct was perfect. But most of all, I'll just back over your point that it's strange that if he had total victory, he immediately appealed the total victory.
Yes.
That is strange. But,
by the way, if you're struggling to remember the details of this case, it involved things such as overestimating the size of an apartment in New York by a factor of 3.
Yes.
And apparently there are some subjective arts involved in estimating floor space.
Not that subjective.
Not that subjective. And there was also the question of how much Mar-a-Lago is actually worth. Because the whole idea was they would tell tax assessors one thing, because that would determine what they'd actually have to pay, but they would put other things in promotional materials. And so, the estimated value of it, according to the Palm Beach County tax assessor, is $16 million. Whereas there had been promotional material saying it was worth anything up to $500 million. And there was a lot of commentary about at the time, like, how could this, waterfront property in one of the most expensive cities in the country, how could it possibly only be worth $16 million? And the answer is there's an enormous number of heritage restrictions on how that property can be used. It can only be used as a private club. Trump using it as a residence, Palm Beach gave up on that a long time ago, but that's technically illegal. And I would also say that Trump's renovations to it have probably lowered the value of it pretty significantly. Same fate for the White House. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, so, obviously that was some serious of authoritarian-style gaslighting. I should also note that Trump posted this picture of himself in court looking hardcore with this music. I think he might deserve a $527 million fine just for the DJ Khaled song. Let's talk about executive orders.
Okay.
There's no doubt why these are all authoritarian.
Yes.
Shall we start with the flag burning one? That's the one.
Yes, let's start with the flag burning.
I bet this is one where you and I have exactly the same opinion.
Yes. So burning the flag of the United States of America has quite a history in American protest, particularly during the Vietnam War. People have always reacted pretty badly to it. In fact, they've often reacted badly to any kind of mutilation or suggestion of mutilation of the American flag.
Would you say they've gone crazy?
Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision. They called it freedom of speech, but there's another reason which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You could do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy.
Is it at levels that people have never seen before,
Well,
Dave?
shortly after this, a former member of the United States military burnt a flag fairly close to the White House in protest.
Was there a riot?
No, there was not a riot.
Was it like we've never seen before?
Generally, when you see photos of people burning flags, usually it's like one person with a bunch of very bored people standing around watching,
That's my understanding.
wondering if something is going to happen. Now, that is not to say that people don't get upset. My favourite anecdote about this is actually not a flag burning anecdote, but it was, and I wish I could remember more details about it. I read it in a book called Blood, Sacrifice and the Nation. It was in the 1960s during a TV appearance. Someone actually wore an entire outfit that had been made out of an American flag. Like it didn't just have American flags on it. Like someone had made an entire outfit out of a flag. There was outrage about that because they would have had to mutilate the flag in order to make this outfit. And there certainly have been times in American life where there have been some pretty draconian restrictions placed on any kind of offence to the flag, especially with the Espionage Act of 1918. One of the provisions in that was any kind of offence to the American flag was taken very seriously. And something that I wrote about in my book, Religious Persecution and Political Order in the United States, was the American Legion, who were the ones who implemented the flag salute in American schools. So the Pledge of Allegiance was devised by a Christian socialist called Edward Bellamy in 1890 as a way of kind of Americanizing new immigrants.
He just knows this shit.
And also,
It's incredible.
his cousin just happened to own a flag factory. So there was a happy harmony of interests there. And so this eventually resulted in the ritual of American children facing the flag with their hand over their heart. Although originally it wasn't their hand over their heart. Originally it was what we might now call an Elon Musk salute. But they changed that in the 1930s for obvious reasons. Yep. But the American Legion got very upset about Jehovah's Witnesses refusing to salute the American flag. Jehovah's Witnesses saw that act as an act of idolatry. This is putting this symbol of the state above God, and they wouldn't do it. The American Legion took that as a direct offence to the veterans. And to this day, whenever someone burns an American flag, the first thing that people reach for is, this is so offensive to the veterans.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm surprised that Trump didn't mention the veterans in that speech. Instead, he went straight to American carnage. This is, this is causing riots. Okay, but why was he talking about it causing riots? That's because even death. That's because even he knows that in 1989, the Supreme Court, in a case that came out of Texas, ruled 5-4 that burning the American flag was protected political speech. Antonin Scalia was one of the judges in the majority of that decision.
He was. He had a very famous quote.
Yes.
Which you were probably about to say.
I wasn't about to say.
Okay, which is, if it were up to me, I would put in jail every sandal-wearing, scruffy-bearded weirdo who burns the American flag, but I am not king. Good on you, Antonin.
There you go. Now, okay, but...
sorry, let me just say, while I'm doing quotes, William Brennan also said that if there was a bedrock principle underlying the First Amendment, it's that the government may not prohibit the expression of an idea simply because society finds the idea itself offensive or disagreeable. And we should say that the case was about a communist activist who burnt the flag outside the 1984 Republican National Convention.
Yes.
So, and he was sentenced to 1 year in prison and fined $2,000 because at the time, here's a trivia for you, Dave.
Yes.
And he finally retained the favour. At the time, Texas was one of 48 states that had flag desecration laws in America.
Right, yes.
You know where I'm going. What were the 2 states that did not have flag desecration laws in 1989?
Oh.
One of them,
Yeah.
very, very guessable. In fact, both of them are guessable, but one of them is very guessable if you think about the character of that state. That's the only clue.
Was one of them New Hampshire?
No. But, I mean, that is guessable, but that's not the one.
Arizona?
No, but you're in the right area. You're in the right area, both geographically and character-wise.
Ah.
But for one of them, geographically, for the other one, character-wise.
Okay. No, look, I give up.
That's okay.
Just don't want to waste any more Pepper's time.
Fair enough. Character-wise, Alaska.
Yep.
Geographically, Wyoming.
Okay.
So, yes.
Yep.
Anyway, it's good trivia. All right, go on, Dave.
Okay. So, however, despite that judgment, that doesn't mean that all limits on speech are out the window. Famously, the most effective limits on speech in the United States are those that are related to public safety, especially inciting riots and inciting violence.
Yes.
So what Trump wants to do here is get this back in front of the Supreme Court. And this executive order is justified by, he's specifically saying it's flag burning that incites riots. So what he's saying is this actually violates other precedents. This violates other things that have been established by precedent in terms of protecting public safety.
Yeah. You keep going and I'll jump in.
And he wants to bring back the 1 year in prison. This was another thing. He said it's not going to be 10 years, but it's not going to be 1 month.
Let's listen to the man.
Yeah.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement.
Incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately, just like when I signed the Statute and Monument Act. 10 years in jail if you hurt any of our beautiful monuments. Everybody left town. They were gone. Never had a problem after that. It's pretty amazing. We stopped it.
Okay, I've got to say a couple of things quickly here. There is no such thing as a Statute and Monument Act. That is just fantasy. He didn't stop people dead from toppling statues. That was a period. We remember when they were doing that.
Yeah.
And they gradually stopped. It wasn't because of Trump.
Yes.
And there is no act that he's talking about.
No.
And there's a very interesting moment that we just played there where he said, "Is that what's it? Did you talk about inciting? Is that in the executive order?" He clearly hasn't read the executive order. And the reason I say that is because it never mentions 1 year. That's not in there.
No.
That is just fantasy.
Yes.
That is just the ravings of a lunatic. Like he was saying, there are no penalties.
Yeah.
In fact, I would go, the reason I was going to you before was because I understand why you're saying what you're saying about them trying to set up a case to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, in fact, part of this executive order explicitly says they should set up a case to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But I think most of it is just nothing. I think it does nothing.
Yeah.
Ironically, even though I'm really on the side of the Supreme Court in this issue, I have no problems with this executive order. Well, not no.
Because it achieves nothing.
Because it's just nothing. Like the lawyers who drafted it were indulging Trump.
Yes.
Yeah, like, I mean, we might not be up to this yet. You might want to say some more things first, but I want to go through some of the language of this executive order.
As I said, it was violated within hours of it.
Well, it wasn't because it says nothing.
Yes.
But Trump thinks it was violated within hours.
Yeah. Now, okay, for his whole thing, if we just say year in jail, you'll see it stop straight away. Try to put yourself in the mind of someone who wants to burn an American flag for some reason. There's going to be a considerable overlap between people who want to burn the American flag and people who want to become an ACLU test case for let's see how far we can go in court with this executive order.
Look, if anything, Trump might like that because he likes to have things to complain about.
Oh yeah. No, he does. There's going to be a symbiotic relationship going on here. But okay, so what happens when someone burns an American flag and there's no riot, and they get arrested for causing a riot by burning the American flag?
Yeah. Well, yes. If someone sorry.
Yes.
I really should start reading out the language.
Okay, read out the language of the executive
because
order.
it is actually the answer to your question.
Okay.
All right, there are two motherhood statements at the start of the executive order.
Yeah.
Right, number one, notwithstanding the Supreme Court's rulings on First Amendment protections, the court has never held that American flag desecration conducted in a manner that is likely to incite imminent lawless action or that is an action amounting to fighting words is constitutionally protected. What I just read out is 100% true. The Supreme Court has never ruled that, incitement to violence is an exception to the First Amendment.
Yeah, no, this was the point I made earlier.
Yeah, so if you are somehow inciting violence while burning the flag, then that's illegal. Like if you are burning the flag while on your loudhailer saying to people, kill the police, kill them now, then that's illegal.
So this is an executive order about something that's already illegal.
Yes, but the act of burning the flag itself is not considered incitement to violence, right? Number two, it says the administration will prosecute those who incite violence or otherwise violate our laws while desecrating this symbol of our country to the fullest extent permissible under any available authority. So once again, it's not banning flag burning. It's banning inciting violence while flag burning and violating our laws while flag burning. It's banning committing crimes while flag burning. So, to your case, if someone doesn't break any laws whatsoever while burning a flag, this executive order does nothing. But
what if you try to incite violence but no one goes for it?
Inciting, that's still inciting. You can still get arrested. So in the case of your mate in the park that you just described before, straight afterwards, he was arrested.
Yes.
Not because of this executive order, but because he ignited an object in a national park. It was in Lafayette Park. That's against the law.
Yes.
So that's what he was arrested for. Okay. So the answer to your question, by the way, I've got more language, but I just wanted to read some language to answer your question. The answer to your question, what if someone, what was the original question again? It was what if someone...
what if someone burns a flag, no riot happens?
Okay, have they broken a law while doing that?
Yep.
Then they'll be arrested for that. If they haven't broken a law and they are arrested, they will be immediately released.
Wow.
And nothing happens.
You know what's going to happen? A whole lot of that.
Yes.
A whole lot of people burning flags as close to cops as they can, but without breaking laws. This is what Trump has unleashed. This is going to get competitive. This might be like we had. This is going to be a golden age of flag burning.
When I was at uni, we had a little competition going between me and a few of my friends called Exam Roulette.
Right.
Where it was the last person to pick up their pen in the exam and still pass. And so we sort of sit there looking at each other, eyeing each other off in the exam until the last second before you pick up the pen and go for it. So that it might be a bit like that with the law, just pushing each other into more and more antisocial areas. Should I go on with more language? Because I think it's a good question. What does this do? Does it do anything, or is it literally nothing? Now, there are things that it does, but it's not what Trump thinks, because I'm sure he hasn't read it. And by the way, this tweet from the White House that said actions have consequences, burn the American flag, disrespect our nation, incite violence, 1 year in jail, no excuses, that's complete fiction. That's Emperor has no clothes stuff right there. Okay, that's garbage. All right. So what did it do? All right. First of all, it asked the Attorney General to prioritize the enforcement to the fullest extent possible of our nation's criminal and civil laws against acts of American flag desecration that violate applicable content-neutral laws while causing harm unrelated to expression consistent with the First Amendment. So On the occasions when people flag burn while committing other crimes, the Attorney General should put the prosecution of those crimes to the front of the queue. That's what that says.
See, if the Trump administration took pollution seriously,
Yeah.
now those nylon flags, you do not want to inhale the fumes
Fair call.
that come out of that.
These-
Those. I can't believe I'm providing suggestions about how this law could actually go from being nothing to something.
But remember, it has to be in a way that doesn't infringe the First Amendment, according to
Right.
that thing which I just read.
Yeah.
It even gives a list of possible other crimes. It says that like violent crimes, hate crimes, illegal discrimination against American citizens, other violations of American civil rights, crimes against property and the peace, as well as conspiracies. Like they're literally saying you can arrest them for all these other things if they happen to be burning the flag at the same time.
By the way, part of that press conference we didn't show was Trump rambling about American flag burning happening in other countries.
Oh, yeah. I think you mentioned at the beginning. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that
happening
was
everywhere.
Yeah. That was even better. Like, what's this executive order going to do about that?
Yeah.
As I said, probably encourage it. Yeah.
So what I just described there is prosecutorial discretion, which the
Yes.
president can do. That's fine. So that's okay. That's cool. I mean, I don't like it, but it's legal. Secondly, when an agency determines an instance of American flag desecration may violate an applicable state or local law, such as open burning restrictions, that's the one in the park one,
Yep.
disorderly conduct laws or destruction of property laws, the agency shall refer the matter to the appropriate state or local authority for potential action. So if people break state or local laws while burning flags,
Yes.
they'll be prosecuted by the state and local authorities. That's fine.
Yeah.
If you break a law, you can be prosecuted.
Yes.
That's okay. That's what happened in the park. Thirdly, the Attorney General may pursue litigation to clarify the scope of the First Amendment exceptions in this area. That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Teeing up the Supreme Court case.
Yes.
Try your luck, guys. Knock yourselves out. It wasn't just once that the Supreme Court ruled against this. It was twice.
Yes.
Because then after 1989, the Texas versus
Yes.
Johnson case, Congress then just couldn't take no for an answer. And they passed a law
Yep.
banning flags, flag burning nationally.
Yep.
Went straight, the same guy, Johnson, burnt the
Yep.
flag again, went straight back to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
And the Supreme Court said, nah, we
Yes.
said no. So it was 5-4 again. So twice the Supreme Court has ruled. And by the way, Supreme Court has become much more right-wing since 1990, but it's become much more pro-free speech
It has
since
been.
1990
So
as well.
Trump described that court as weak and sad. Yeah, but he can't really take it for granted here.
No. And finally, one more, sorry, before you take your breath, Dave. He instructs that the relevant people shall deny, prohibit, terminate, or revoke visas, residence permits, naturalization proceedings, and other immigration benefits,
Yeah.
or seek removal from the United States whenever there's been an appropriate determination that foreign nationals have engaged in American flag desecration activity under circumstances that permit the exercise of such remedies pursuant to federal law. So, Trump never misses an opportunity to find another reason to boot out a migrant. That is quite predictable.
Yes.
The key is the last bit. Under circumstances that permit the exercise of such remedies pursuant to federal law, the executive can use broad discretion to boot out undesirables, as we know, but they can't compromise First Amendment rights.
No,
when
they
do.
can't.
So I don't know that this changes a lot. Bottom line, if this does anything at all, it's changing the priority of prosecutions that could take place anyway,
Yes.
which Trump can totally do.
Yep.
And whether you like it or not, I don't like it. It is pretty unobjectionable, unlike almost everything else we're about to talk about today.
Yes.
So, yeah, you got more thoughts?
I would just say, so overall, I would say this falls into the category of authoritarian theatre.
Yes, I would
Whereas
agree with that.
we've got a lot more serious examples of authoritarianism. But it just makes me reflect on the presence of the flag in American life. I have never seen more national flags anywhere than in the United States. And one of the distinctive things about them is that most of them are not part of government property. I think that most Australian flags I would see are probably being flown on government property, whereas most American flags are not. Very normal to go past a car dealership, which is surrounded by American flags. So the American flag certainly does have a very prominent place in American life. That also might be one of the things that contributes to it being burnt so much, It's a bit like,
everywhere.
Yeah, it's a bit like the number of guns in the United States. With that many guns, they're bound to get used. With that many flags, it certainly makes flag burning a much easier enterprise in the US than it does in any other country.
We should say, before we move on, that some right-wingers have tried to respond to complaints about this executive order. Not from me. I'm happy with the executive order. But from others who didn't read it, like President Trump. They've tried to respond with whataboutism.
Right.
With this clip of Hillary Clinton from 2006.
So I hope, Mr. President, that we can pass a law that criminalizes flag burning and desecration.
Oh, no. This person from the other side who has been utterly irrelevant for a decade had a stupid, unconstitutional opinion 20 years ago. That invalidates all arguments. You got me. Not impressed.
It is amazing that they would say, how can this be wrong if Hillary Clinton agrees?
Yeah, because we always agree with Hillary Clinton in MAGA.
Jesus.
I assume we're finished with this one?
Yes, we are.
Let's go to the cashless bail executive order.
Okay, this one is a bit more serious.
Yes, this is.
I think.
Yeah,
so cashless bail is a movement that has happened mostly in large cities. And what this is about is the fact that when cash bail is required, it's very hard for a lot of people to, to come up with it. And so as a result, you get people staying, often in quite horrible circumstances, in jail before they get a chance to go to trial, a trial which might find that they have done nothing wrong.
Yes.
And some numbers that I've seen associated with this are 50% of Americans would have difficulty coming up with $400 under emergency circumstances, and bail for felony offences on average is around $10,000. And one of the legal pioneers of the cashless bail movement, who was a public defender in Houston, said that over an 18-month period when he was working on this, 55 people died in Houston jails while waiting for trial. Right. So this is potentially life and death for poor people. Now, obviously, bail isn't just imposed to punish the poor. The theory behind it is that it's for public safety concerns, right? That bail is far more likely to ensure that people actually return to court. The more serious the offence, the higher the bail should be. But the alternative is public safety assessment.
Before we do alternatives, I just want to say a couple more things about bail.
Yes.
About cash bail. And that is there's also concerns about discrimination.
Yep.
About the fact that it is judges who impose bail, and judges have prejudice just like everyone else.
Yep.
And that there's been numerous studies that have found that Black and Hispanic people tend to have higher bails set for them for the same crimes than white people do.
Yes.
And the Black and Hispanic people are less likely to be able to afford the bail.
Yes.
As well.
And the other element that's worth mentioning is, so people who can't afford bail, they might just stay in jail, or their families might turn to the bail bonding industry, which is extortionate.
Yes.
Yeah, which charges extortionate rates of interest and resorts to quite brutal methods.
And there is one other issue as well, which is that I don't have the numbers on me, but there are definitely studies that have shown that when you don't qualify for bail, or you can't afford bail, and you stay in jail, you're way less likely to beat the rap.
Yes, yeah.
And you're much more likely to be convicted.
Yes.
So what this is I mean, already poor people obviously are disadvantaged by the justice system as it is.
Yes.
And that's unavoidable. You're never going to get rid of that. Completely. But what this does is it exacerbates the problem.
Yes.
It makes what is already a problem for poor people in the justice system that much worse.
Right. Yes.
So those are the arguments people use against the cash bail system. And I think most reasonable people, including people of all different political ideologies, agree with all that. The issue is, what are you going to do about it? Which is when you get to what
so
you were saying.
public safety assessments are the procedure that have replaced it, right? So there's no money involved. There's a decision made about, does this person actually pose a threat if they're released? That to me makes a lot more sense on a whole lot of levels. Not only is that not discriminatory on the grounds of finance or race or anything else, although, I mean, obviously those judgments could also be discriminatory.
Sure.
But also, it means that it's safety that is driving the assessment, not somebody's ability to pay.
Yes.
Under the current system, it's basically, well, we're not quite sure about this, so we're going to quantify the uncertainty in terms of an amount of money that gets paid. And what it could mean is that someone who has the ability to pay but is absolutely a threat gets out. And that's not that is neither fair nor very safe.
Now, what Trump says in response to this...
Yes.
Are we up to this? We say, so, yeah. What Trump says is the White House put out a memo that said cashless bail policies allow dangerous individuals to immediately return to the streets and further endanger law-abiding, hard-working Americans because they know our laws will not be enforced. Trump also tweeted, crime in American cities started to significantly rise when they went to cashless bail. The worst criminals are flooding our streets and endangering even our great law enforcement officers. It's a complete disaster and must be ended immediately. Okay, now let's leave the hyperbole aside. Okay, which we always have to with Trump.
Yeah.
Right, let's just take in neutral forms the two arguments there.
Yep.
Number one, that it allows dangerous people on the streets. Number two, that crime went up when cashless bail came along. Now, the first one I feel like you've already addressed before we even got to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, a public safety assessment, if done properly, does not allow dangerous people back onto the street.
That's the whole point.
As opposed to cash bail,
Where
which
if they're rich, they're allowed on the streets.
does allow dangerous people back onto the street. Now,
That's
okay,
right.
I don't want to completely caricature this. Even in cash bail regimes, often decisions are made that this person is so dangerous that we are not allowing them back.
But more decisions are made in cash bail situation which allow rich people
Absolutely.
who are dangerous back on the streets than in a situation where public safety is the only issue.
It should be the only issue.
The second thing, though, from what I just read before, about
Yes.
the crime going up when cashless bail came along.
Yes.
Look, I mean, there is an argument that could be made to that, that broadly speaking,
Yes.
cashless bail policies came around-ish 2020.
Yes.
Which is around-ish when crime went up.
Yes.
That is a fact.
Yes.
But around-ish did a
Yes.
lot of work.
Yeah.
Cashless bail policies came in from 2017, which is the first one I know of, which was New Jersey.
Yep.
All the way through to 2023 was Illinois. And crime went up in a very sharp spike around in the middle of 2020 when a lot of other things happened.
Yes.
Like the George Floyd protests,
Yes.
like COVID, like a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes.
Right? And so I think to draw a direct link between the cashless bail policies and that spike, I think you're pushing shit uphill.
Yeah, and they've cited a report about the number of people basically in the middle of the pandemic who got out and reoffended. As you say, there was a lot going on during the pandemic, and we haven't seen that continuing. This is the thing. Crime's been going down since then. It's not because cashless bail policies went away.
No, they're still there.
The Brennan Center did a study comparing 22 jurisdictions, 11 with cashless bail, 11 without cashless bail. They found there was no statistically significant difference in terms of crime.
I think also, and that this might be, so far we're on the same page, this might be where we depart from each other.
Okay.
I think that there are cashless bail policies and cashless bail policies.
Oh, I'm sure you're right.
No, I'm sure you agree on that. But you might. I think you'll probably be more liberal than me on which policies
Probably,
you
yes.
like.
Yeah.
In that, for instance, I didn't like that in the original New York cashless bail policy, which they have since reformed. They blanket allows all minor offences to not have bail ever.
Right.
Like assault, for instance. Like the misdemeanor assault.
Yeah.
And for a number of non-violent felonies, they just said, no bail ever. Sorry. I mean, Always bail.
Always
ever.
bail, yeah.
Always bail, ever. Always, yeah. Like and then they use discretion for the more serious offences with a public safety assessment, right?
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that. What you did find was the classic examples of someone commits an assault, released immediately back on the street, commits another assault, released immediately back on the street.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's what Trump's talking about when he's talking about that people think then that the laws aren't being enforced anymore.
That's probably not what he's talking about. He's probably talking about something that he's seen on TV.
Well, that's probably true as well.
Yes.
But they're not all like that. You shouldn't confuse all the policies as if they're the same. New Jersey had right across the board judicial discretion for everything, from the most minor offence to the most serious offence. And there is literally, there have been so many stays on New Jersey, literally exactly the same rate of reoffence before and after the policies.
Yes.
No change at all.
Yeah.
If you want to know the numbers, 86% are the numbers. 86% of arrestees released do not reoffend. That was the case before cashless bail. That's the case after cashless bail.
Yeah.
New York, since they reformed, same thing.
Yeah.
Like originally, they did climb a few percent after bail reform. I've got the graph to show you. You can see originally the big spike was when everything went haywire in COVID at the same time as the cashless bail.
Yes, yeah.
And then you can see it settled at a higher rate of a few percent, 3 or 4% above what it used to be.
Yeah.
It's since dropped.
Yes.
Since they reformed it. And and Washington DC, same situation. They got the New Jersey system basically. The reoffence rates are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So the numbers aren't lying there.
No.
And I understand why people don't like the original New York system, but that's not the New Jersey system. I personally vouch for the New Jersey system. I think it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, it's not very often that we wade into the New York versus New Jersey controversies, let alone on the side of New Jersey.
Yes.
But I will stand with you on this one.
Thank you very much. Okay. We didn't even talk about the executive order. What's the executive order do? I can tell you. I guess fine.
Yeah.
Right, okay. The executive order threatens to remove federal funding for jurisdictions that keep cashless bail.
Yes.
The executive order says the head of each executive department and agency, in coordination with the director of the Office of Management and Budget, shall identify federal funds, including grants and contracts, currently provided to cashless bail jurisdictions that may be suspended or terminated as appropriate and consistent with applicable law. It's always got the consistent with applicable law there, so by definition it can't be illegal. But we know what they mean. What they mean is try and defund as much as possible states that have cashless bail. This is another example of something the administration has done a lot of, trying to use federal funding to bully states into doing something which the federal government has no power to make them do under the Constitution. Cashless bail is clearly a state issue. It's a justice issue. That has nothing to do with the president. Generally speaking, the courts do allow the federal government to do that when the funding is directly related to the issue that they are arguing about. That makes sense. But the federal government can't use wholly irrelevant funding, like, say, health funding, to compel state activity in justice, say, for instance. So, like I said, to the word of the executive order, that's very lawful. It says, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law. But if they do anything, it will instantly become illegal.
Yes.
Because they're not providing money for cashless bail systems, I assure you of that.
No, they're not.
And so they are just messing around in areas that have nothing to do with them constitutionally in this executive order, which is why I don't like this one, and this is authoritarian and it's unconstitutional in my view.
Completely agree.
Okay, good. By the way, note, Washington, D.C. has cashless bail, like I said, but the federal government can do what they like there because the federal government controls Washington, D.C. justice system.
Yes.
So that's the one exception. Okay, let's go on to the next one. The quick response posse, I guess you'd call it.
Yes. So this one has possibly been in the works for a while.
Yeah.
Talks with the Defense Department. So this is about creating, my understanding is, 50 new National Guard units, one for every state.
Yep.
That is available for quick response to quell unrest.
That's correct.
Now, this is not normally how it works, okay? National Guard members, they are not full-time soldiers, and they don't get used every single time that something goes wrong in a state or a city. The general principle behind using the National Guard for anything that is related to unrest is it's when the existing law enforcement authorities can't handle it. And usually they have to be summoned by the state government. Yeah, specifically by the state governor. And yeah, it's only when things get completely out of hand. Now, that's for quelling unrest. There are plenty of other circumstances where National Guard can and are used, often in response to natural disasters.
Yes. Fires.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, there is still a similar principle that it's when the local authorities can't handle it anymore. But they're usually much quicker to call in the National Guard when there's a natural disaster because in that case they need all of the help that they can get.
And they've been trained to deal with that.
And they have been trained to deal with that. But this is not how the National Guard is supposed to be used as it was originally designed. So saying that you're going to train this rapid response team that can be used at any time to quell unrest, this is basically putting a lot of National Guard on a permanent mobilisation footing.
Yep.
Right? So these are people who aren't even full-time soldiers. Yeah, they're on a permanent footing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and I don't know how much the executive order actually covers this, as we were talking about in the case of Los Angeles, the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 says that federalised troops can't be used for law enforcement purposes. Now, okay, in this case, if it was a state governor calling in the National Guard in response to quell unrest, then they could be used. But Trump has been talking a lot about, maybe we'll let the governor call them in, but maybe we'll just do it ourselves. I think it might be better if we just send them in ourselves. They are not supposed to be used for law enforcement purposes.
Absolutely not.
Now, which is why the Trump administration was arguing that what the federalized National Guard was being used for in Los Angeles were, first of all, the idea of quelling a rebellion because of the fact that there were protests against federal policy and attempts to obstruct ICE officers.
Yeah, he called the protest a riot, essentially.
Yeah. And also protecting federal property.
Yeah.
Right. But there's, I'm sure that a lot of the unrest that Trump has in mind is not necessarily related to either of those two things.
And just to be clear, the DC one, that's cool. They do whatever they like in DC. We know that.
Yes.
But
more on that later.
Yeah, but but as far as LA goes, that's still in court.
Yeah, it is still in court.
That's still in court. So that may yet be found an illegal use of the National Guard.
And as we noted at the time, because of the legal issues around it, the result was most of the National Guard was doing nothing.
Yeah.
There were a couple of instances of the National Guard actively getting involved, entertaining protesters. But if you can, if you're remembering all of the violence and the violent footage and an Australian reporter getting shot in the arse and all that stuff, that was the LAPD.
Yeah.
Who were doing that, the famously liberal LAPD. Yeah, so this one's got all kinds of problems as well.
Let me add two more things to what you just said. I mean, what Dave says is all accurate about every state having their own little crack response unit.
Yes.
But then there are two other units.
Right.
Which this executive order has, both of which I find more worrying.
Yeah.
The first one, the Secretary of Defense shall, subject to the availability of appropriations and applicable law, or it says in applicable law, immediately create and begin training, manning, hiring, and equipping a specialized unit within the District of Columbia National Guard, subject to activation under Title 32 of the United States Code, that is dedicated to ensuring public safety and order in the nation's capital. So creating creating out of the DC National Guard this crack unit.
Yep.
It's assembled by Pete Hegseth.
Yes.
No less. Who's got zero law enforcement training. is a big fan of the word lethality and is best known till recently for not giving a shit about war crimes. But it goes on. The DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force shall establish an online portal for Americans with law enforcement or other relevant backgrounds and experience to apply to join federal law enforcement entities to support the policy goals described in this and the order. Each law enforcement agency that's a member of the DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force, as well as other relevant, however that name, relevant components of the Department of Justice, as the Attorney General determines, shall immediately create and begin training, manning, hiring, and equipping a specialized unit dedicated to ensuring public safety and order in the nation's capital that can be deployed whenever the circumstances necessitate and that could be deployed subject to applicable law in other cities where public safety and order has been lost. So for those who lost themselves and all that legalese, he's going to create an online portal for those with some law enforcement experience or related backgrounds who are not currently in law enforcement. Who are those people, I wonder? Because, the good cops, they're already cops.
Yes.
The people who used to be cops who are no longer cops,
Yeah.
they're retired.
Yes.
Who are the people he wants? I'll tell you the kind of people who want to be a part of it. They're people like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the dudes in these paramilitary organizations that never quite made it in law enforcement, but they're in related activities and related backgrounds.
Yeah.
And they'd love to help out. Do you think I'm scaremongering? This is what the Oath Keepers leader, Stuart Rhodes, said about the DC crackdown. Trump should call up all of us. Every able-bodied male in this nation, aged 17 to 45, should be called up as the militia. So he's keen to volunteer. I don't think every able-bodied male will volunteer, but I bet he will. So the president will have his own little army that he can use to keep order as he sees fit in any city. That's sounding super brown shirty to me.
That is sounding like one of the more brown shirty things that he's done.
I don't like this at all.
No.
And then that executive order is calling for Hegseth, as you say, to set up same kinds of units in every state that the president can call upon at will.
Yes.
Brown shirty.
Yes.
So this worries me.
It's time-rich people who want to bust some heads. Who, as you say, were never able to make it into law enforcement because, looking at the current situation with the National Guard, right, looking at DC. So there are something like 2,200 National Guard in DC.
Yes.
Only 700 of them are the DC National Guard.
That's right.
There are also National Guard units from Mississippi, Louisiana, and Tennessee.
Oh, there's more than that.
It's South Carolina, West Virginia as well.
Yeah.
But just want to bear in mind, the capital of Mississippi, Jackson, has a murder rate 4 times the size of DC.
Yes.
We've talked about the New Orleans murder rate before, and we've talked about the murder capital of the United States, which is Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes. Although,
yes,
I'm not sure you were here when we talked about
when you define city boundaries.
Exactly. Yes. We didn't need to be careful about that. But you know what? No matter how you define your city boundaries, Memphis, Tennessee has a lot of crime.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of the sort of necessity of the National Guard and just keeping in mind everything that Trump has been saying about how bad things are in DC, the level of bloodbath, the level of carnage, you want to know some of the things that the National Guard is doing in DC?
Just before you do this,
yes.
Let me just finish off, just wrap up this little bit we were just doing there. Just to say, I know I was getting quite alarmist when I was talking at the brown shirty group.
Yep.
I still think, to be clear, that this will probably end with nothing.
Yeah.
I think nothing is the most likely option of what can happen out of this executive order.
Yes.
But if something happens, there is no room for that something to be good.
No.
like we're praying for nothing. That's
Yes.
what I'm saying. And if something happens, it's going to be bad.
Yes.
And I think we just need to call that out right here and now.
Yes.
Nothing good can come of this. It's either two options are nothing or something bad.
Yes.
So I just want to flag that right now. Okay, Dave, you want to go on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, no, hang on. I've lost this
That's
story
all right.
now. But this was a story in the Washington Post.
I've got all the numbers too, man.
About the fact that one of the things that the National Guard is doing is picking up trash and participating in landscaping of public
Oh,
parks.
I don't have that. They're doing landscaping.
Landscaping.
I did hear that Trump wanted a $2 billion beautifying fund.
Right.
Has he already got it? I don't know.
Now,
It's probably from the ice slush fund.
okay, so you go through certain parks, you will see National Guards in uniform and also not carrying weapons, picking up trash and landscaping.
I'm glad those guys aren't carrying weapons because now the National Guard in DC are carrying weapons.
Yes, but these the trash brigade
Yeah.
are not.
Good.
And there was an interview with one of them anonymously who said, well, as a DC resident, I'm glad that we're helping to clean it up, but I think the military should be used for other things.
On that note,
Yes.
sorry, I know I'm interrupting you a lot, but this is a really important point that does not get made enough.
Yeah, yeah.
The National Guard, for all these stupid ventures, like
Yes.
this immigration attack forces and,
Yeah, yeah.
and gardening and stuff,
Yeah.
these guys have real jobs.
They have real jobs.
They've-
So they are not full-time
No.
soldiers.
They've got families. They've got lives.
Yes.
They're not meant to be doing this shit. They're meant to be
Yeah.
living their lives. Not only is this incredibly unfair on the National Guard, it's incredibly unfair on the communities they come from as well. They have
Yes.
vacancies, important vacancies that these people used to fill
Yes.
before they were just the babysitting brigade for Trump.
Yes. Now, I mean, you could make the argument that, well, maybe this makes them seem like less of an occupying force if they're doing things like picking up trash and doing landscaping.
I'm sure it does.
And it's also been pointed out that frequently, as part of their sort of training / hazing, National Guard officers have to go around picking up cigarette butts just as a way of building discipline.
Okay.
But what they're actually being used for here is making up for shortcomings in the funding of the National Park Service. Where there used to be 200 people employed in maintenance, there are now fewer than 20. And so, yeah, they're getting these part-time soldiers who are not being paid as maintenance contractors to pick up garbage and to do landscape gardening because they're there, because they're not actually quelling uprisings or dealing with the most serious murder rate in the world.
I got some good news for you, Dave.
Yes?
$2 billion buys a lot of gardeners. They're going to have a well-kept garden in Washington, D.C. While you're running hot there, let me give you some more D.C. numbers because I like to check in with what's going on in D.C.
Yep.
Okay, so they've gone from having simply 3,200 police,
Yes.
which is what they had before, to 3,200 police plus, as you said, 2,200 National Guard,
Yep.
plus 500 federal agents. Let's not forget them.
Yep.
Actually, the federal agents are doing most of the heavy lifting because National Guards are, as you say, doing emu parade.
Yes.
While the federal agents are the ones who are walking around the high crime areas,
Yes.
who are doing actual policing. But anyway, they've basically doubled the law enforcement from 3,200 to 5,900. Okay, that's what they've done.
Yep.
So you'd expect some results from that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would.
So let's talk about the results. Arrests. From the 7th of August to the 25th of August, there have been 1,094 arrests in DC. They've been trumpeting this from the skies. They're really proud of that one. Over the same period in 2024, a year ago, exactly a year ago,
Yep.
1,071 arrests. No change. No change at all, Dave.
Oh, well, only if you consider 23 to be an insignificant number. The number that Michael Jordan wore.
Oh, my God, you're right. This is a championship-winning effort.
No
for the National
respect.
Guard. Note, by the way, those are arrests, not charges. So we don't know how many were charged.
Yeah, it
Okay.
will be interesting to compare the arrest to charge ratio
Yes, it
of
will
those
be.
2 years.
Oh, I've got a little qualifier coming on that as well. But we'll just leave that
Okay.
for there
Yeah,
until
yeah,
I get
yeah,
to that number coming up.
Yep.
Weapons recovery. DC police records show they recorded They recovered 2,895 firearms across the entire year in 2024.
Yep.
During this 18-day period, they've recovered 115 firearms. So that, I've done the maths for you, is a 20% drop in the rate of firearm seizing over that 18-day period compared to last year. Although it's strange, they're even boasting about that because US Attorney Janine Pirro, I don't know if you heard this one,
No.
has directed prosecutors, while she wants them to seek the maximum penalty for anyone arrested during the crackdown,
Yep.
there is one exception. Residents caught in possession of rifles and shotguns.
Oh, the good guns.
She says because of Supreme Court decisions that she doesn't want them charged. I have no idea what she's referring to. You can definitely charge them in Washington, D.C. Anyway, homeless encampments. They've cleared 49.
Right.
That is something that, indeed, only they can do because they're almost exclusively on federal land.
Yes.
So it needs to be the feds doing that. Had a correspondence actually asking about what happens to the homeless people. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was looking
Nothing
to
good.
find out. Yeah, I don't think they're having a great time given
No.
all their stuff shoved in the bin.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if they're threatened with arrest. I don't know if they're put in a car and driven out to the city limits. I don't know what happens to them. I don't know.
Or maybe they're just given maps of Trump's convoy routes to his golf courses. So you just cannot appear
Stay
near
away.
any of these places.
Yeah, look, it's a good question what happens to them. I have been looking. I wish I had an answer for you. Crime. What about the crime rate?
What about it?
Well, they went 12 days without a murder. That streak is now broken, by the way. There has been a murder.
Yep.
As Steve Miller put it, while the streak was on,
No police officer working in the city can remember a time in their lives when there has been no murders. You can work at the police department for 20 years, 30 years, your whole life. We've checked the records. No one can even find a record of being murder-free for as long as we've been murder-free under President Trump's leadership.
I have some terrible news. There is a massive amnesia epidemic in the DC police force and the world's worst record keeping. Apparently, because in February to March this year, there was a 16-day stretch without a murder. He only had to go back 6 months for his bullshit lie to be disproven. And there were 2 other times this year when there was a week without a murder
Wow.
in DC as well. Other crimes, though, if we're being fair, have definitely gone down compared to the same period last year. I've got a graph for you right here. I'll read it out. Assaults have dropped from 53 to 43. Burglaries have dropped from 77 to 40. This is over the same period. Motor vehicle theft has dropped from 289 to 186. Robbery has dropped from 112 to 42. Violent crime has dropped from 180 to 92. You get the idea. Okay, so there's a real drop. Now, crime was dropping in 2025 anyway.
Yes.
If you trust Washington's figures, in the 2 weeks before the deployment, violent crime was down 20% on the year before at the same time. I'm sure it's around there.
Yeah.
But, look, they've discouraged crime, as you would expect, with twice the law enforcement presence. That makes sense. You know what's really changed, though? And this is what I was flagging before. There was one little extra qualifier. What's really changed is immigration enforcement. Let's talk those numbers. When there were 817 arrests in DC,
Yep.
I haven't got figures since then, 300 of them were for immigration offences. So look at, they're going at about 36% of arrests are for
Yep.
immigration offences.
Yes.
What does that mean? Remember before when I said they've had the same number of arrests?
Yes.
Apart from the Magic Jordan figure.
Yes.
Actually, they've arrested a third less people for crime.
Yeah.
The rest are immigration offences. So actually, the arrests have gone down significantly, but they're hiding that with these immigration enforcement. Also, if you want to compare to before, that's 11 times the usual numbers of immigration arrests in DC, which under
Yes.
Trump have been about 12 a week. And now they've got, in just over 2 weeks, they've got the best part of 350 of them.
Yes.
So that is what this is really about. If you want to know what this is actually about, it's not about cigarette butts.
No.
It's not about like photo bombing out the Washington Monument. What this is about is immigration enforcement, like every bloody thing is
Yes.
when it comes to the Trump administration.
You know another thing that's changed?
What's that?
Grand juries are not indicting people.
Yeah, go on. Yes.
Yes. Now, you know the famous saying that a grand jury would indict a ham sandwich if a prosecutor, instructed them to?
I guess it was a chicken sandwich.
The sandwich assailant was not indicted by the grand jury.
No.
And he is not alone. Increasingly in DC, grand juries are just not indicting people who have had charges brought against them because they are so flimsy.
There was a woman who they tried to arrest her for felony assault for getting in between. By the way, there's no euphemism. This is actually what happened. For getting in between ICE and one of their targets.
Yes. Yeah.
And the grand jury wouldn't hand a verdict for them. So then they just convened another grand jury.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do it.
No.
So then they convened another grand jury.
Yes.
They were rejected by 3 grand juries before they gave up. And the judge made them give up.
Yeah, yeah.
And they end up going for a misdemeanor.
It's really important to stress how unusual this is because grand juries, all that they have to establish is that there's a case to be made.
Yeah.
Right? That there's probable cause. They don't have to make a judgment about whether the crime was definitely committed or probably committed. They have to make a judgment about whether there is probable cause to go ahead with a prosecution, which is why it is so easy to get a grand jury to indict. And grand juries are saying no.
And the fact they keep on going with this and just leveling spurious charges, usually assault charges.
Yes.
So they can say how many times people have committed assaults supposedly against ICE.
Yeah.
You know what kind of societies do that? Authoritarian societies
Absolutely.
do that, Dave. They misuse the law.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, though, it's not just immigration enforcement and it's not just emu parades.
Yes.
Like some of these law enforcement guys, like ICE, they're doing some really important work in DC. I've got some video of it.
Yep.
You're going to be inspired by this, Dave. I know you are. They put this out. ICE put this out. But like ICE put it, not someone else.
Yeah.
ICE put this out.
Mine. We're taking America back, baby. Esto es para América. Los Estados Unidos es número uno.
Okay, now we need to describe what that is because there's a lot of silence for those who are listening.
Yes.
Okay, so what you didn't just see.
What you saw was massively sculpted superheroes bravely running towards the most dangerous situation that anybody has ever seen and peacefully conquering it.
Not quite. Not quite.
No?
Not quite. No. First of all, I don't think any of these people are about to find themselves in the Avengers.
No.
Secondly, what you saw was 10 armed and masked. They even wear masks in their propaganda videos.
Masks and sunglasses.
And sunglasses. 10 armed, masked, sunglassed ICE officers bravely taking down a sheet. Hey, with no people anywhere, just a sheet.
No people anywhere near it.
Just a sheet on a wall that said, Mount Pleasant melts ice.
Yes.
And then that guy at the end said in Spanish, this is for America. The United States is number one. My heroes.
Yes.
So inspiring. 10 of them.
Yeah.
It took 10 of them to take down this sign.
This is what the Foo Fighters song My Hero was written for.
And they are the ones who put out that video.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
That's what they're up to. Anyway, also with the authoritarian stuff, like I flagged before,
Yes.
so to speak, National Guard, they weren't carrying weapons because they weren't meant to be policing anyone, so that makes sense.
Yes.
But now they're starting to carry weapons.
Yep.
Many of them are now carrying guns, maybe not the Flower Brigade, but otherwise they're carrying guns. Only 50 of them are carrying rifles at the moment. That number is going to increase, I'm sure. Why are they carrying rifles? Not clear. They're not the ones who are patrolling high crime areas because they're not supposed to be doing policing. Meanwhile, Trump is edging closer and closer to outright saying authoritarianism is a good thing. Twice in 2 days. This is the first one.
Yep.
And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
So that was the first day, and that was controversial, as you
Yep.
might imagine. But, you know, like people saying on Twitter, going, "Oh, you're misunderstanding him on purpose. He's saying he's not a dictator." So of course, the next day Trump backs over it.
So the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, you know, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just know how to stop crime.
He's just pushing it, isn't he?
That,
Further and further.
That, by the way, was in a cabinet meeting that went for 3 hours.
a bit El Presidente.
If there's any dictator he's modelling himself on, it is Hugo Chavez. Like, he just loves talking for hours and hours and hours in circumstances where people can't leave.
I'm not sure Richard Cook will like me to tell this story, but it's a very brief one.
Okay.
Back at uni, we have like student union at uni, like a lot of unions do.
Yep.
Richard Cook ran for the president of the student union as El Presidente.
Okay.
As like a tin pot dictator.
Yep.
Like it was just a joke candidacy.
Yeah.
And like he got around uni for like a month dressed in
Yes.
this military gear, all these badges and stuff. and wearing the little hat and stuff. Yeah, the real vibe
Yes.
of Richard Cook as El Presidente at that meeting.
Yeah.
Really did. But yeah, look, I get that he's not saying I am a dictator. But he is saying maybe people like dictators. He's saying, well, you know, there are good things about dictators. He just keeps on pushing further and further on the line.
Well, look, to take an obvious example of what he might be talking about, it is Nayib Bukele in El Salvador.
That's exactly the way he carries on.
Someone who calls himself a dictator, refers to himself as world's coolest dictator. Now,
Ironically.
yes.
But he is a dictator.
He is a dictator.
Yes.
And so this is somebody whose entire presidency it's really been all about cracking down on the gangs and putting all of these gang members in this facility or this series of facilities. And the thing is, he does have majority support in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Because he dealt with gang violence, which was creating a homicide rate that was above war zone homicide rates. El Salvador was one of the most dangerous places on earth. In fact, neighboring countries, including Honduras, which at the time had a left-wing government, enacted similar crackdowns modeled on what El Salvador had done, although not to the same extent. Even the Catholic Church in El Salvador tepidly supported what he had done in terms of the gang crackdown, which is very unusual for the Catholic Church. Now, those are the kinds of circumstances that Trump might have in mind when he's talking about people saying, well, if a dictator stops crime, then I'm in favor of a dictator. But let me reiterate, El Salvador had a homicide rate that was above war zone homicide rates. And it was touching every community in El Salvador. Everybody was afraid of people who were obvious gang members who would dominate all public space. Everybody was afraid about the fact that their children would potentially be killed by stray bullets. This was one of the major reasons for the asylum crisis in the US. That is not what we are looking at here.
But Trump is hoping if he can scare people into thinking that's the situation, he can use the same, not exactly the same policies, but he can use policies from the same book.
Yes.
I've got no doubt that he is thinking of Bukele. I'm not saying he's going to create gulags or Alcatraz. I'm not saying he's going to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
That Bukele is. I'm not catastrophizing, but you cannot tell me he isn't aware of the popularity benefits of saving people from, in inverted commas, high crime emergencies. And that he is trying to make that his thing. And in the process, he doesn't care if he stomps on civil liberties.
Yes.
He doesn't care if he compromises the Constitution. He doesn't care if he just pushes that line further and further. And the whole time he's joking about it, having a nice laugh. He's daring you to catastrophize. And every time you catastrophize, you go, oh, my God, these people are on the side of the criminals. What's going on?
Yeah.
Why are these Democrats on the side of murderers? while he's at the whole time he's normalizing his bullshit just that little bit more. I don't know what to do about this, Dave, because it's not okay, but it is effective. It just is. I'm not saying Trump is super popular, but I'm saying that if you can scare people and you can provide the solution, that works. It does work.
I don't think this has been effective at all.
Just
looking at how this stuff is polling, his approval, the latest Quinnipiac poll, which admittedly often does worse for Trump than other polls, but on crime, it shows him at 42% approval, 52% disapproval.
He's at exactly the same approval as he always is. None of this matters. In my book, the shit he's doing, he should be at 15%.
Yeah, no, of course.
It doesn't change.
I'm saying this isn't spurring popularity.
No.
Bukele actually became popular on the back of what he had done.
America is a tougher country than El Salvador.
It is, and it's actually kind of embarrassing that the president of the United States wants to model himself on the president of El Salvador.
But when I say tough, I don't mean tough as in like hard yakka. I mean tough as in for politicians. It's a hard country for politicians to master.
Yes,
but I mean, let's just it's not hurting him. Like constantly violating the Constitution should hurt you.
That's true.
Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Okay.
So the next city that he clearly wants to send the National Guard to is Chicago.
Yes.
And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York.
That dude is sitting there with a Trump was right about everything hat on.
Yeah.
You know what he reminds me of?
What?
Ruprecht from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. That's what he reminds me of. He looks like a guy who should have a cork on the end of his fork so he doesn't poke his eye out. That's what he looks like.
I'm just thinking, though, okay, imagine showing that to somebody at the beginning of 2017, say, this is what America is going to be like in 2025. And they see Trump wearing a hat saying Trump is right about everything, sitting next to the World Cup.
Yeah.
At some point in his third term, people will be thinking, what is going on? What happened? How did he win the World Cup?
Talking about beautiful ladies.
Talking about beautiful African-American ladies.
Yeah, he wants to go to Chicago.
Yes.
We should also note, before you go on, about Jay Pritzker, which I knew was coming, that how he's planning to do that. Because you might go, well, hang on, he doesn't have his force yet. The executive order only was just written. No, actually he does. The Pentagon has confirmed up to 1,700 National Guardsmen are set to mobilize in 19 states to assist the DHS with Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration and crime. I didn't know there was an official crackdown on illegal immigration and crime. I thought it was just an emergency in Washington, D.C. No, now there's an official crackdown on illegal immigration and crime. It's funny how these things just creep up on you, isn't it?
It is funny. It was also reported in Politico today that Trump keeps talking about a crime bill that he's negotiating with the House and the Senate.
Which no one's heard of.
They could not find anyone in the House and Senate who was aware of this.
Yeah, and the National Guard soldiers are at the moment supposed to serve as support at immigration facilities. They're going to be performing case management, transportation, logistical support, and clerical functions associated with processing illegal immigrants. And that's fine. They can do that. That's legal. That's all right. Although a massive waste of their time. Like I said before.
Just thinking about Pete Hegseth, Mr. Lethality. The military's about lethality, and picking up cigarette butts.
Yeah. But those people there, if Trump wants to try to invade Chicago with the National Guard. He's got them just sitting there, like they're just licking stamps at the immigration facilities, waiting.
There was also news that broke today that ICE is planning to use a naval base just outside Chicago.
Oh, no, nice.
For as the base for its operations.
It's always about immigration, though.
It is always about immigration.
Just scratch the surface.
Yes.
Okay. So what are you going to say about Pritzker?
Well, JB Pritzker's response, which has been widely praised by law and order types. They're like, Democrats have got to stop saying that crime's under control. You've got to acknowledge that people are shit scared out there. And what they liked about JB Pritzker was he said, we know that we haven't solved all the crime problems in Chicago, but the Trump administration has cut $800 million from violence prevention programs across the United States, including $158 million in violence prevention programs in Illinois. Trump is defunding the police.
I don't have the first part, but I do have the second part,
Yeah.
which we can watch now.
Crime is dropping in Chicago. Murders are down 32% compared to last year and nearly cut in half since 2021. Shootings are down 37% since last year and 57% from 4 years ago. Robberies are down 34% year over year. Burglaries down 21%. Motor vehicle thefts down 26%. So in case there was any doubt as to the motivation behind Trump's military occupations, take note. 13 of the top 20 cities in homicide rate have Republican governors. None of these cities is Chicago. 8 of the top 10 states with the highest homicide rates are led by Republicans. None of those states is Illinois. Memphis, Tennessee, Hattiesburg, Mississippi have higher crime rates than Chicago, and yet Donald Trump is sending troops here and not there? Ask yourself why. If Donald Trump was actually serious about fighting crime in cities like Chicago, he, along with his congressional Republicans, would not be cutting over $800 million in public safety and crime prevention grants nationally, including cutting $158 million in funding to Illinois for violence prevention programs that deploy trained outreach workers to de-escalate conflict on our streets. Cutting $71 million in law enforcement grants to Illinois, direct money for police departments through programs like Project Safe Neighborhoods, the state and local anti-terrorism training program, and the Rural Violent Crime Reduction Initiative. Cutting $137 million in child protection measures in Illinois that protect our kids against abuse and neglect. Trump is defunding the police.
Now, for what it's worth, I don't know whether that line is going to be more effective than any other line. I think the people are far too focused on messaging as the solution for everything for Democrats.
Can I also add off the back of that, just in terms of stats? Look, I've got different stats to Pritzker, but similar stats, which I just want to share because they're slightly different. Out of the top 30 cities for violent crime rate, which remember comparing violent crime rate between cities is problematic, but out of the top 30 cities, 22 of them have Democratic mayors.
Yes.
Which is what Republicans always say. They go, so they're all Democratic mayors. Most cities have Democratic mayors.
Yes.
But 16 of them are in red states. As in 16 of the top 30 cities are in red states. So, and it's at least so far, Trump has only ever mentioned blue cities in blue states.
Yes.
And while I'm at it, let me try another trivia on you here, Dave.
Okay, yes.
Because when I was looking at those stats, I noticed that New York murders have dropped a bit. 377 murders in 2024.
Yep.
Do you want to ballpark how many murders there were in New York in 1991? 377 in 2024.
My guess is it's something like 1,200.
2,154.
Whoa, okay.
How about that? Six times more.
I knew it was bad.
LA, 280 murders last year.
Yep.
2024. How many do you think there were in 1991?
I'll say 1,000.
Bingo. Ding, 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 ding. 1,025 murders in LA in 1991, 280 last year. It is not a crime emergency.
No.
Not even close.
It's still too many murders, but those are related to factors that are not going to be solved by just flooding the streets with National Guard. Yeah.
Well, you know what? If it was going to be solved, I mean, like, I'm as you know,
yes,
you've done this podcast with me long enough. I'm very much of the school: more police, no dramas. As long as they're well controlled and you have proper procedures and all the rest of it. I got no problems funding lots of police. But funding lots of police is not funding random National Guard people who aren't trained, don't know what they're doing, may or may not be carrying guns, may or may not be carrying cigarette butts, but, or flowers. Yeah, like if you want to make your thing cracking down on crime, fine. Yeah, get the money. Like, I'm sure Congress will fund it for you. Yes, and do it properly. Yeah, that's not what he's doing. He's cracking down on blue cities and blue states as a means of being partisan. That is what he's doing.
One of the big critiques of policing in the United States, and in fact in a lot of places, is police don't actually get to devote all their time and resources to solving crimes or to stopping crimes because they're constantly dealing with things like parking. They're constantly dealing with things like homeless people. They're constantly dealing with things like people having mental health crises, right? And so the way that defund the police became reframed was far more in terms of let's solve every murder. Let's free up police resources to actually deal with things that police are good at dealing with and that people expect police to deal with, rather than trying to deal with every social problem, which is what they're currently expected to do, where frequently it's unfair to the police, it's unfair to the people that they have to deal with. They're not trained to deal with it, and frequently police encounters lead to violence in those situations. We can really extend that argument to the National Guard. This is not what the National Guard is for. Yes, the National Guard is very good at things like response to natural disasters. That's when you want to see them cleaning stuff up. They are not supposed to be used as basically free contractors. Yeah.
Got anything else to say about National Guard?
No.
No, not have I. Let's go on to the next outrage.
Yes.
This is a real outrage-a-thon this week.
It really is.
Like I said, this has been such a big authority. I've found it so depressing. Like, honestly, like, oh, God, I'm trying so hard.
Yes.
Just anyway. Next one, Lisa Cook. Oh, my God. This story has been coming down the pike for months.
Yes, it has.
And I've been dreading when this was going to break in a big way.
Yep.
And now it's broken and it's going to get worse.
Yes.
This reminds me a little bit of, I'll go get you started in a sec, Dave. But this reminds me a little bit of when I first heard the beginnings of the Ukraine weapons denial. That turned out to be Trump's first impeachment.
Yep.
When I first heard the beginnings of that, I thought, oh, this stinks. This is not going to end well. I tried to cover it on Plain America, but everyone else was like, this sounds really boring and trivial and technical. And I was like, no, I don't think it is.
No.
And then in about 2 weeks, it just exploded and then exploded more and more. This is that vibe to me. I could see this being the first impeachment if the Democrats were in the House. Like if this goes where I dread it is going, it's going to take a long time to peel it away.
Yep.
But it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
You want to start?
I want to just start by briefly talking about what the Federal Reserve is.
Yes.
So it is the independent central bank of the United States. Like all central banks, its major responsibility, not to mention the ideology of the people who tend to be drawn to it, is about keeping inflation under control through control of the monetary supply. It has other economic aims as well, but really keeping inflation under control is the most important one for it. The way that the Federal Reserve is structured is that there's a board of governors that has 7 members. Then there are also there are 10 Federal Reserve's regional Is it 10 or 12?
There are. I don't know how many there are in total, but there are 5 on the board that choose
Right.
just right.
Yeah,
So they rotate on and off.
Yeah. So you have the chairs of these regional Federal Reserves. Like we've used data from the Federal Reserve of St. Louis before, Federal Reserve San Francisco, Minneapolis, all these places. Yeah. So there are 5 board members from those regional Federal Reserves, and then there are 5 who are like, and they rotate.
Yeah, they rotate.
Yeah, every year. Okay, so that's the structure of the Federal Reserve. The big meeting that happens with the 7 board members and the 7 board of governors and the 5 regional Federal Reserves, that is known as the Federal Open Market Committee. Okay, so Lisa Cook was the first African-American woman ever appointed to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, and not surprisingly, she faced an uphill battle for her nomination. So she was an economics professor at Michigan State. Republicans accused her of being unqualified.
Yep.
Wasn't because of her academic qualifications or things that she had worked on. She had worked on a lot of subjects that were very germane to the Federal Reserve, but she had also worked on discrimination issues.
She's woke.
Which they did not like. They said, this sounds more like social science than economics. Economics is a social science, by the way. It is a scientific analysis of a social activity, which is economic transactions and decisions. But anyway, but they saw it as this is just going to expand Biden's woke agenda. So she got through on a tie-breaking vote from Kamala Harris in the Senate. Now, once she got onto the Federal Reserve, she voted with Jerome Powell every time to keep interest rates steady, despite the fact that a lot of Democrats were calling for interest rates to be reduced.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe Biden was not happy about the fact that interest rates stayed steady the whole way through, even as inflation did begin to come down from its very, very high peaks. He was not happy about that, but he wasn't constantly talking about firing members of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, one of the ironies of the Lisa Cook situation is that the critique of her of being this sort of, like this warm, fuzzy kind of woke individuals, you'd expect her to not go hard on being an inflation hawk.
Yeah.
But you expect her to want to lower interest rates all the time to help the poor people.
Yeah, nope.
But she's been the direct opposite.
She was the inflation hawk of the inflation hawk's dreams.
And Trump wishes that she was the cliche of what people thought she would be.
He really wishes that she was.
Yeah.
Now, okay, before we get to how she's being attacked, just looking at the overall balance of the Board of Governors. So an Obama appointee resigned very unexpectedly a few weeks ago.
Yes.
She only had about 5 months left on her term, though. Bearing in mind, terms are long.
They are 14 years.
14 years, okay? So Trump is most likely to appoint one of his, let's just call him a crony because that's what he is.
Yeah, Moran
Stephen,
is a crony. Yes.
Stephen Moran, and he's got 2 other appointees on the board.
Yep.
Those appointees have been voting against Powell on interest rate decisions, which is a bit unusual because usually these decisions tend to be fairly unanimous. So the situation is very soon there are going to be 3 Trump-appointed members of the Board of Governors. If he can get rid of Lisa Cook, who's only 3 years into her term, he would be looking at appointing
3 years, 1 year into her term. She was 2024. She's going through to 2038.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, go on. Yeah.
So, she would, that would be 4 Trump appointees.
That's right, which is still not a majority of the board. That's 12. 4 of 12 days.
But you know what the Board of Governors does?
They are the ones who choose the other guys.
The regional governors.
Yeah.
And they have 5-year terms and they're not staggered.
Yeah, and when's their 5-year term up, Dave?
Next year.
Next February.
Yes.
That's when.
So this might look like it's just removing 1 out of 7 members of the Board of Governors. This is actually a path to giving Trump control over the entire Open Market Committee.
Now, to be clear,
Yep.
No Federal Reserve governor board has ever voted out one of those presidents.
That's true.
One of those 5 presidents or one of the 12 presidents, whatever there were.
Yeah.
In the 112-year history of the Fed. But who wants to take those odds now?
Yes.
The fact is, if Trump flunkies own 4 of the 7 positions, they can.
Yes.
They can replace those people in February with a bunch of Trump flunkies across the board. Now, there is one other thing you got to point out, which is the first 2 Trump appointees were from his first term. Back in Trump's first term, he wasn't appointing mega hacks. He was appointing just standard conservatives generally because he wasn't choosing them. They were being chosen for him by standard conservatives.
Yep.
And so you shouldn't necessarily assume that those 2 are going to go along with the scheming.
No.
You should assume Stephen Moran will.
Yes.
But whoever the next one is, but don't assume the first 2 will, except for one thing. Jerome Powell's about to go.
Yeah.
And at least he's about to stop being the chair. And Trump is going to choose who the next chair is.
Yes.
And they know that.
Yes.
And those 2 of Trump's first term picks know that if they play their cards right, they might be the next chair.
Yep.
And that decision is going to be made after after February when the new people are chosen. So they're going to have every incentive to hack it up as hard as they possibly can.
Yes.
In other words, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yep.
But there is at least a very conceivable possibility that if Trump can replace Lisa Cook, he gets to control the entire Fed.
Yes.
And he gets to decide how interest rates go up or down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, so Trump announced that he was firing Lisa Cook because of that it had come to his attention that she might have committed mortgage fraud. We'll come back to Lisa Cook in just a second.
Sure.
Just want to talk about where this mortgage fraud thing comes from. Okay. So if you Google someone called Bill Pulte,
yes,
you will immediately get a photo of a grinning charlatan, an almost perfect creature of Trump world. Okay? So this is a real estate heir.
Yep.
So he was heir to a big real estate company. It's not necessarily the case in big real estate companies that the grandson would automatically become the boss, but he was involved in pushing out people who were far more qualified than he was.
Yep.
He was a big Trump donor. He ran some fairly dubious non-profits.
Could we go a bit earlier than that?
Yeah.
Yeah, just before the Trump years.
Yes.
Could we go to how he became best well known?
Yep.
He became well known by giving away money on Twitter.
Yes. He calls himself the father of Twitter philanthropy.
Yes, yeah, because he was very young at the time.
Yep.
And very rich.
Very rich, yes.
Very rich, and he was just giving away money, but saying people had to follow him to receive the money. And part of the process was, he ended up getting 2 million followers through basically buying them.
Yep.
But not literally buying them, but bribing people to follow him.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked Trump to follow him in return for giving him $30,000 to a veteran. And
Yes.
Trump did.
Yep.
And then he amassed lots and lots of followers that way.
Yes.
Right. So that's how he started. And then he got involved in dodgy meme stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the Trump years where he starts donating big time to Trump,
Hugely.
like $500,000 type
Yes.
donations to Trump and Trump super PACs.
Yep.
But just before I throw back to you, I want to show you a clip from last year.
Yep.
When this is him in a bar. I don't know what the conference is about. Some kind of informal thing. Trying to impress people by coming on stage with Pulte written all over the TV screens in the bar. And I can't imagine how much he paid for this.
Yeah.
While his theme song, Only the Young, is playing. That's like his catchphrase, Only the Young, is playing as he goes up there. And I really want you to enjoy this. I'm sorry for those who are listening rather than watching. You won't get the full experience.
Yeah.
But for those who are watching, I do warn you, you might pull a muscle from cringing. So I hope you're well stretched. Let's go.
come up. I'm going to come up in a little bit.
I just can't get over the fact that that dude there has made his catchphrase "Only the young."
Yes.
Like, for those who can't see him, he looks about 55. He looks like Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, he's only 37.
Yes.
Yeah, but he looks about 55, and he's wearing the Trump overlong red tie.
Yeah. Okay, I'll throw it back to you, Dave. So take it from there.
Yes. Okay, so his reward for all of this was being appointed as the head of the Housing Finance Commission.
Yes.
Now, as has been the case with a lot of these federal agencies during the second Trump presidency, he has taken it upon himself to directly take over agencies within the agencies, especially two of the most important agencies in American life, which are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Yeah.
Within days, he had fired the heads of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as well as a lot of workers within those, and he had installed himself as the chair of both of those companies. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the organisations, the federal organisations that back home loans.
Yeah. And when you mess with them, you get a GFC.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But that also gives him access to a lot of data, and he is not afraid to use it. So fairly early on into this, he announced that he had evidence that Letitia James had been committing mortgage fraud.
Yes.
Now, why would he be going after Letitia James? Because it was Letitia James who led the investigation that found that Trump had massively committed fraud in terms of inflating the value of his properties or deflating them for tax purposes, inflating them for the propaganda marketed to the banks. Okay? So this was basically a...
Turn around is fair play.
Payback and also a way of just trivializing the whole idea of fraud.
Totally.
That it's not real. This is all just based on who's in power.
Can we just make a point here?
Yep.
That's a federal crime if she has committed mortgage fraud.
Yes.
This was in April.
Yep.
Have there been any indictments for Letitia James,
No.
Dave? No, there haven't.
And in fact, and I'll just say also, so similar charges leveled against Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
Both of them, their lawyers use the very similar language. They said these are long discredited claims. But this stuff has been dredged up before. And in both cases, it was about them having more than one property listed as a principal residence in mortgage applications.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this a fair bit, but I've got a few things to say quickly. First of all, principal residence is not primary residence.
Not primary residence.
They keep on confusing the two terms.
Yep.
You can only have one primary residence.
Yes.
You can have more than one principal residence.
Yes.
And they keep on saying, look, these people have two simultaneous principal residences. You can do that. You can't have two primary residences.
No.
You know? And that the forms that they have signed have said principal residences, not primary residence. That's critical.
It is critical.
I should also say that while the indictments have not been forthcoming for Letitia James, now Adam Schiff, that was quite recent. That was in the last month.
Yep.
So they haven't had time yet for him. But Letitia James have had plenty of time.
Yes.
While the indictments, and by the way, the DOJ, they're not backward when it comes to enforcing partisan investigations.
No, they are not.
So the fact that they're not even willing to go there says something.
Yes.
They haven't been indicting Letitia James, but who has been just harassing her has been old mate.
The Eagle's Nest.
The Weaponization Commissioner. who I just need to remind you is supposed to be against weaponization rather than for weaponization.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's been just harassing Letitia James as much as he can about this issue. In particular, I couldn't believe this tweet of him outside Letitia James's house last week with the creepy caption, "Good morning, America. How are ya?" Look at that. Standing outside her house.
Yeah.
That's freaky.
That is just normalizing sociopathy.
And yet, no indictments. But these two are good mates. They love each other. But Pulte and Martin are great friends. They work hand in hand.
Yeah.
So that's Letitia James. With Schiff, as you said, very similar situation. This time he had a home in Maryland and California, both called primary residence again. This is actually
principal residence.
So principals, yeah, good call, good call. Sorry, yes, very important. This was Schiff's response. We should actually play it.
Now, the government mortgage company, Fannie Mae, says you're, quote, engaged in a sustained pattern of possible occupancy misrepresentation on several loans. Are these allegations true? How do you respond to them?
They're patently false. And the president knows it, in the housing agency, president's person, Pulte, knows it. He's essentially doing the president's bidding against me, against Letitia James, against this person on the Federal Reserve. Mortgage is their new weapon to go after their critics. But I've been very open about my residency, both in California and in Maryland, with my constituents and with the lenders. So there's no there there.
Okay, and just a couple more things about Schiff and James before we move on to Cook. In none of the accusations has Pulte detailed what financial advantages were supposedly received because of the alleged fraud.
Yes.
And that's important if you want to charge them with fraud.
Yes.
If they're not doing it for any advantage, it's not fraud, which might be a reason they're not indicted.
Yes. And another thing is, with this, and as we are going to see with Lisa Cook, all he is doing is pulling up documents that at the same time list two houses as principal residences. No other context whatsoever.
Yes.
As has been widely pointed out, someone who's actually applying for a mortgage, they have way more communication with the bank than that.
Yes.
There could be many other documents out there that give the detailed picture to the bank of exactly what they're doing.
And the factors that matter most, by the way,
yes,
are not whether it's their principal residence.
No.
It's their income.
Yes.
The value of the property.
Yes.
The loan amount.
Yes.
The borrower's credit history.
Yep.
All the things that Trump has been lying about.
Yes.
Which they don't seem to care about.
No.
but they're focusing on this principal residence thing.
Yes.
Which just is irrelevant.
It's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Now, primary residence, which is a different thing, that has certain legally mandated benefits that come with it in terms of it gets capital gains tax at a different rate. And it's also likely that you would get a lower mortgage rate on your primary residence. But again, this is not about primary residence. This is about principal residence. And it's been widely pointed out it is quite common for people who are from one place but have a job in another place to have more than one principal residence. And that brings us to Lisa Cook.
Yes.
Okay, so Lisa Cook, same story, 2 principal residences, one in Michigan, which is where she was working until quite recently. Can't remember where the other one is.
Ann Arbor and Atlanta are the two.
Yes, yeah. Ann Arbor, of course. Even though she was working at Michigan State University, which is in East Lansing. But anyway, so once again, it's this 2 principal residences thing. And once again, same, just one inference made by one guy who is not qualified to make any kind of inferences off 2 documents.
Yes.
Yeah. There is an exceptional blog post that argues all the way through why this is not illegal.
It was good.
Yes. Do you want to talk about it?
To be honest, I don't know where I've incorporated into my arguments, but you can talk about it because it's just part of my arguments. Like Dave showed it to me before, and I was like, I'm using that.
Yes.
That's why he threw to me, but I don't know where I've incorporated it.
Yes. Okay. So this is by Adam Levitin on his blog Credit Slips. Okay. Now, starting off with the fact that with Trump's firing of her, he has said that within the legislation that governs the Federal Reserve, the president can only remove a governor of the Federal Reserve for cause.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yep.
We should before we go to that, we should explicitly just make the point at the Supreme Court.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is that until recently, there were all kinds of laws in place that the president wasn't meant to be able to just sack anyone that liked from any kind of board. But the Supreme Court, a couple of months back, changed their mind, essentially, overruled the previous Supreme Court holdings.
Yep.
And they just said the president can basically do what he likes in terms of firing board members of any agency.
Yep.
With the one exception, which is the Fed.
Yes.
And they were very, very explicit about that. They said in their ruling just this year, in a ruling which gave Trump way more power than he had before, which a ruling I did not like, the Federal Reserve is a uniquely structured quasi-private entity that follows in the distinct historical tradition of the first and second banks of the United States. That seems like a vague and nonsensical thing to say, but the important point is they were very clear that the Fed needs to stay independent. They probably don't want the financial markets to go nuts, which is obviously what would happen if the Fed stopped being independent. We've talked before about Richard Nixon in 1970 appointing his buddy Arthur Burns, and America paying for that. He appointed him to the Federal Reserve chair. He then reduced interest rates, clearly helping Nixon for the election in 1972, and America paid for that for the next decade with high interest rates. So the Supreme Court's trying to avoid that, even though they should care about the law and not pragmatism. But anyway, and so the president, by going after the Fed at all, is just spitting in the Supreme Court's face, firstly.
Yes.
But that aside, he can sack them, according to the law, they can be sacked. Didn't say by who.
Yeah.
For cause, which is then where you come in.
For cause, right. And it's clear that Trump and his lawyers are confident that the Supreme Court's going to be reluctant to second-guess the president on what legitimate cause is. Because it is not specified what for cause actually means, people have so far been interpreting that in terms of what it would usually mean, which is some kind of significant wrongdoing related to the job itself.
Yes.
Not being having a less than upstanding personal life. Yeah. Not even doing things of dubious legality in business dealings that are not related to the job.
Having said that, what the president is pushing is the idea that, well, if she's not financially trustworthy, that's kind of part of her job.
Right.
How can we trust the Federal Reserve dealing with interest rates if they're financially dubious themselves?
Yes. Now, obviously, she has not been charged with anything.
That's a key point.
Let alone convicted of anything. Trump is saying that the accusation is enough.
She hasn't even defended herself yet. He sacked her before he even found out what she had to say.
Yes.
That's pretty early on.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as Andrew Leviton points out, none of the evidence that Pulte has actually presented, bearing in mind it is just two documents that show that at the same time she was listing two properties as principal residences, none of that is proof of fraud.
You need intentionality.
First of all, you need intentionality.
Yes. And yes, I know she's a Federal Reserve governor, and so you might go, well, Federal Reserve governor should know the fine print of the forms they sign, because normally with intentionality, the issue is they go, this is so complex. Mortgages are so complex, so much paperwork. People don't read it all, don't understand it all. Well, Federal Reserve governor should understand it all. Like, you have no idea what she was thinking, what her interpretation of that was, until you ask her.
Yes.
Which you haven't done yet. So even if you're going to give her a harsher assumption than you would someone else, you still need to go through some kind of process other than someone tweeting out an accusation.
Yes.
Which is all they've done so far.
Now, on that point, here's one of the key lines. Most borrowers do not read their security instruments.
Yes.
So it is entirely possible that Cook had no idea what she was promising beyond that she would pay the mortgage note whose installments came due.
Yeah.
Key point. While contract law readily tags consumers with constructive knowledge of the terms and conditions of their prolix form contracts, criminal law doesn't work like that.
I love your quoting, Dave.
Okay, so everyone is familiar with the idea that, yes, if you sign a contract, you really should read it first and know what it means, because that's the assumption in contract law, even though for most of us, scrolling through various agreements, we don't do it. But if one of those agreements that you scrolled through said, by the way, you agree to a contract killing, if you had no idea that that's what you'd signed on for, in a criminal proceeding, that would mean that you don't have the intention to do it.
Yes.
Okay. Criminal law is different from contract law in this regard, and that is a very important point. He also points out that these security instruments, the covenants in these security instruments, they're not statements.
No, they're promises.
They
That's
are
right, yeah.
promises.
Yeah, they're saying what she intends to do.
Yes.
She said she signed something that said she intended for that to be her principal residence for the next 12
Yes.
months, I think it was.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later, she signed an equivalent statement. And by the way, these are very long statements.
Yes.
So very, very long documents, which was promising again that she would use that as her principal residence for 12 months, and that was 2 weeks later.
Yep.
So at worst, they are promises that don't pan out.
That's right.
Rather than statements that are a lie, unless you can show she intended to break them all along,
Yes.
which gets to intentionality again, which Trump doesn't seem to care about.
Yes. So I think this is another good line. They are promises, not representations of current fact, so they cannot be false. Misrepresentation about intended occupancy on the uniform residential mortgage application could trigger the 18 United States Code Section 1014, but the representation here that property will be the borrower's primary residence is very narrow given that no duration is specified. That vagueness cuts against a criminal prosecution. Okay, we don't need to go any more into this other than just to say this is going to come nowhere near the standards required for a criminal prosecution.
And importantly, if Trump can just make up his own mind when he goes, on what terms he goes, he can just call it whenever he likes.
Yes.
Then there's no such thing as for cause.
No.
That's not for cause. That's just Trump's discretion then.
Yes.
So in which case there's no restriction on the Federal Reserve and
Yes.
the Supreme Court. Well, tough luck, Supreme Court.
Yes. Now, Lisa Cook has basically just refused to be fired.
Yeah.
She said, I'm going to keep turning up to meetings.
I got the quote. President Trump purported to fire me for cause when no cause exists under the law and he has no authority to do so. I will not resign. I will continue to carry out my duties to help the American economy as I have been doing since 2022.
Yes.
Sorry, you're right. 2022.
Yes. Now, so even though he says he's fired her, doesn't appear that he has. So she's still there.
Yes.
And I mean, this is going to court very, very soon, right? And okay, so coming back to that issue, as I said, Trump and his lawyers will be confident that even though the Supreme Court had its little thing about the Federal Reserve is different, this Supreme Court might be very reluctant to say that something that the president says is for cause is not actually for cause, given the way that this Supreme Court really seems to like the unitary executive theory.
It does. But, for them to contradict themselves so soon. Like it was only a couple of months ago that they explicitly said hands off the Supreme Court. Hands off the Fed. If they contradicted themselves on that, that would be very close to the most hackish thing they have done.
Wouldn't rule it out, though.
Well, yeah, we'll find out. We'll definitely find out.
We will definitely find out. And so the other thing that people are talking about now is, so how are markets going to respond to this, right? This attack on central bank independence, which means that interest rates could be lowered prematurely. We know that Trump's preference is for low interest rates no matter what the circumstances. His businesses are all dependent on low interest rates, and he sees this both as a sign of economic health, which actually low interest rates are usually not, but also something that will fuel the economy. Now, so far, there hasn't been a big market reaction.
No.
Okay. Now, there are a few reasons for this. One is that the stock market isn't actually some great kind of long-term oracle about what's going to happen. People make stock market decisions on trying to get immediate marginal advantage out of things. Now, one of the things that the stock market is foreseeing in the short term, which is probably correct, is interest rates are going to come down. One of the forecasters gives it an 83% chance of happening at the next meeting.
They were going to come down anyway.
Yeah.
Regardless of
the interest rates are going to come down in September. So maybe the thinking is, well, look, if Trump's just going to stack the Federal Reserve with people who are going to bring down interest rates, they're coming down anyway. We don't have much to worry about, at least in the short term. That could be one of the reasons. Another reason could be, look, in the end, Powell is still going to Powell, right? He can replace one person, but, Powell's still there.
And even the worst case scenario, Trump doesn't get control till February.
Yes.
That's a long time in economics.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that might be why we're not seeing any reactions at the moment. But it could also be that just a lot of people involved in, in markets, in business, in the kind of funds that move it, they're pretty right-wing. And a lot of them really like Trump. Yeah, and a lot of them think that Trump's basically got the right idea and that his tax cuts are great. And that the economy is generally moving in the right direction when you have a Republican president in the White House. They might not be able to maintain that forever, but that may be the way that they see it now.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But here, Dave,
yes,
is where it gets more interesting. And this is the reason why I was saying before, I think this is one of those stories that might keep on growing.
Yes.
Because let's go back to those Adam Schiff allegations for a second.
Yep.
They were supposedly from a memo sent to Bill Pulte by Fannie Mae's criminal investigators.
Yes.
The memo made no allegation of fraud, to be clear.
Yep.
But it did say that the Housing Finance Administration Inspector General demanded the loan file and any related investigative or quality control documentation, as well as all other loans associated with Adam Schiff. That's a strange thing to ask for. Why are they going after Adam Schiff of all people? Why is the FHFA Inspector General demanding that very specific info about a very specific random senator out of the blue?
I mean, we have said before that he looks a lot like the Hamburglar.
Yeah, that might be it. It might be based on prejudice.
Yes.
Michael Bromwich, a former Justice Department Inspector General, said, "From beginning to end, this process is highly irregular." When asked whether Pulte played a role in the demand, they did not respond. Also, a lot of people are asking, why was their response to the Inspector General's request forwarded to the head of the FHFA, who's a Trump political appointee? What's he going to do with anything? Bromwich, again, quote, "It is extremely unusual for the response to any Inspector General document request to go to the head of the agency rather than back to the office of the Inspector General.
Yes.
I've never heard of that. So far as I know, it's unprecedented for such raw information to be forwarded to the White House. Responses to the Office of Inspector General requests simply don't go to the White House, ever." Also of interest, Dave, is why is Pulte scrutinising mortgages that just happen to belong to many high-profile opponents of Trump? When a Washington Post reporter asked FHFA to identify the procedural basis for Pulte to single out these targets, she received no answer. Is he going down a hit list of Democrats? We don't know. Did the White House ask Pulte to search for mortgages as a pretext for DOJ referrals, either in general or specifically for individuals? We don't know. And this, Dave, is why it becomes very interesting that Lisa Cook has hired Abby Lowell, who's a bit of a bulldog, to represent her in the lawsuit that she's launched against the Trump and the FHFA. Cook is suing to challenge her firing, whether it's real or not. And she intends to use the discovery process to shed light on why Pulte targeted these mortgages and on any White House involvement in that. And I reckon Pulte is exactly the kind of guy that will shine in a deposition.
Yes.
I reckon that dude is going to sweat hard. And I suspect that this could be, if there is anything there, and, I bet there is. If there's anything there, I reckon we'd find out. Not now.
Yes.
6 months' time, 12 months' time.
Yeah.
And this has got pretty big scandal written all over it for me.
Yep.
Especially if Putin keeps on going. And I bet
yeah.
he does keep on going.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll stay tuned on that one.
Also, the stock market is not the thing to watch in the long term. In the long term, the concern would be about the bond market and the dollar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and look, I don't know that they have the numbers on me. I don't have the graph, but I did read somewhere that while the stock market, the market's not going wild at the moment.
Yeah.
What is at least growing quite rapidly is the gap between expectations of interest rates in the short term and expectations of interest rates in the long term.
Yes.
So the market is noticing. Mm-hmm. They're not freaking out yet.
No.
Let's see in another 4 or 5 months. Anyway, so it's an interesting story, which is a bit too complicated, I think, for a lot of people to follow and understand the full ramifications.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's going to grow.
Yep.
I think when you talk about enemies lists, it's the moment there's actual evidence of an enemies list, and maybe there won't be. But if there is, we're off to the races, folks. So we'll see. Dave, John Bolton, there's so much of this shit this week. There's so much of this authoritarian shit this week. Okay. The FBI raided the home and office of John Bolton on Saturday. And I got to say, we don't know the details of this.
No.
And that is going to be a big qualifier. I'm going to put on everything I'm going to say.
Yep.
Here. Because, who knows what he's done? We just don't know. But I do want to just, right off the bat, allow Dave the platform to complain. Because when I told him we really do need to speak about John Bolton, he was so annoyed because he just does not want to speak about John Bolton.
God damn you for making me care about John Bolton and his rights. Okay, so this is going to be something to do with mishandling of documents because this is resurfacing a claim that was made against him in 2020 when he put out this memoir which the Trump administration accused him of using stolen documents.
Yes.
So my guess is they're searching for the stolen documents.
Quite possibly. And those documents, by the way, they might not be like Trump, sort of toilet paper / war plans. They might not be like that. They might be just notes.
Yes.
Because John Bolton is a notorious note taker.
Yes.
And he was in very classified meetings. And he would have undoubtedly taken lots of notes in those meetings. And he wrote a book. He wrote a book probably based on those notes.
Yep.
And you're supposed to destroy those notes or leave them in a classified area. They may be just looking. They may have reason to believe he kept his notes.
Yes,
and they might be looking for them.
Yep,
we don't know.
Yes, you may remember in Trump's first term, Bolton spent the first half of it lobbying heavily for the job of National Security Advisor, which he eventually got.
Congratulations, John.
Congratulations, John. But also be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Things began to unravel in 2019 when Donald Trump, at John Bolton's urging, supported what turned out to be one of the least successful coups in history. Okay, this was in Venezuela. This was in the aftermath of a contested election. So this was the leader of, the National Assembly declared that the results were invalid, and the leader of the National Assembly was the de facto president. Now, a lot of countries immediately recognized him as such, but it was the US support that was crucial, especially as he then tried to get the military behind him. The whole thing was very sad. It only lasted about 3 days. Look, it wasn't the least successful coup of all time. Let me tell you about the least successful coup of all time. Please hit the tangent treehouse.
Oh, yeah.
In 1970, the 45-year-old, much renowned Japanese novelist, Yukio Mishima, who was very displeased about the direction that the country was going in after the Second World War because Japan had become demilitarized. The emperor had renounced his divinity, which Mishima said, this is as if our brave kamikaze pilots died for nothing. And, he just wanted to make Japan great again. he was a very great novelist, but also a lunatic. It's quite deeply closeted, but very in favor of traditional Japanese military values. And he was an obsessive bodybuilder and martial arts enthusiast, and he had this little coterie of acolytes, one of whom was his lover. And anyway, so he turns up with 4 of his acolytes to Tokyo's military barracks, right? So there's still this limited self-defense force that is allowed under the pacifist constitution. And sure, they let him in because nobody's expecting anything to happen at the Tokyo military barracks. Anyway, he goes and takes the head of the barracks hostage and then goes out onto the balcony and gives this speech to all these curious soldiers who've assembled below about the need to remilitarize Japan and overthrow the sections of the Constitution that ban the remilitarization of Japan. And the soldiers all just laughed at him.
It didn't happen?
Jeered at him. No. No, it did not happen. Now, Mishima, to his great credit, he accepted his failure. In fact, it appears he expected the failure to happen. Over the last 2 years, he had been writing this series of 4 novels, which are collectively known as the Sea of Fertility tetralogy. I've read the first one, Spring Snow. It's fantastic. It's an amazing novel. If you're going to read one book by a certified right-wing lunatic, I highly recommend this one. But as Richard Cook has actually alluded to before on a podcast, talking about Kevin Drum graphing his own death.
Yes.
Saying this is like Mishima's death poem. Mishima had his death poem ready to go. Not only that, he had his suicide arrangement ready to go, which was committing ritual disembowelment, so seppuku. But part of the tradition is, because that usually doesn't completely kill you, you have one of your friends there to finish the job by beheading you. So he had his lover acolyte there beheading him as well, although didn't do a very good job of it because these days people just don't get a lot of training in beheading people, and it's quite a difficult thing to do.
The disemboweling seems pointless, doesn't it? Just get beheaded.
Well, yeah, but that's not the tradition.
Yeah, okay.
Sure. Anyway, then his acolyte tried to kill himself as well, failed, but it was all very sad. But the other thing that Mishima had done was actually to prepare all these documents very carefully, legally absolving the acolytes.
Oh, that's nice.
So they did spend a little bit of time in prison, but they got out since. Not surprisingly, they don't want to be interviewed about this stuff.
I can see why he predicted his own failure, though.
Yeah.
If you are going to the military,
yes,
to say to them,
yes,
we should take over the country, and remilitarize. By definition, the military can't be very good if they require remilitarization. So how are you going to take over the country? So I ask you.
Yeah, anyway, the military was very unimpressed. So I would rate that one as the least successful coup of all time.
Fair call.
Venezuela's a few ranks above that. But the point is, Trump was like, Bolton made me back a loser. Trump doesn't care about the ideological dimensions of this. He doesn't care about overthrowing communism in Venezuela.
He's just tired of
He's
losing.
just like, no, Maduro, winner, Guaido, loser. You made me back a loser.
Right.
So was the subtext of all of his interactions with Bolton ever since. Makes you wonder, actually, what it would have been like if Trump had been president in 1970. Bolton definitely would have said, you've got to back this guy, Mishima.
Yeah.
He's awesome. So that was where the falling out began, and Bolton was gone, I think, by the end of 2019, wasn't he? Trump went through a lot of national security advisors.
He did.
He was the most spectacular failure in that role. Yes, and by 2020, he was writing a tell-all memoir, which involved documents that Trump said were stolen.
Yeah, well, and also Trump declared that all conversations with him were classified.
Yes.
Which is extraordinary.
Amazing given the number of things that Trump declares unclassified or declassified with his mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, all conversations classified. Anyway, so Trump's going after John Bolton now. J.D. Vance gave this little speech about this in this wide-ranging interview that he did.
So we're in the very early stages of an ongoing investigation into John Bolton. I will say we're going to let that investigation proceed. What I can tell you is that unlike the Biden DOJ and the Biden FBI, our law enforcement agencies are going to be driven by law and not by politics. And so if we think that Ambassador Bolton has committed a crime, of course, eventually prosecutions will come. But as you know, Kristen, this is all part of gathering evidence, trying to understand something that we're worried about. And of course, I'll let the FBI comment on the next stage of the investigation.
What's at the root of this? Is this about classified documents?
Well, again, I'll let the FBI speak to that. Classified documents are certainly part of it, but I think that there's a broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. They're going to look into it. And like I said, if there's no crime here, we're not going to prosecute it. If there is a crime here, of course, Ambassador Bolton will get his day in court. That's how it should be.
There's broad concern about Ambassador Bolton.
Broad concern. Now, I want to note a couple of things. One is the use of the title ambassador. That was his Bush-era title.
Oh, yes.
He was ambassador to the United Nations. So they're trying to disassociate him from the fact that he was actually appointed to the far more powerful role of National Security Advisor during the Trump administration. They're also preparing their supporters for the inevitable disappointment that, no, he's not going to be arrested. None of these people are going to be arrested.
Can I also point out as well?
Yes.
Why would the vice president know anything about the prosecution and investigation?
Yes, why would he be saying, well, classified documents are definitely part of it?
Yeah, like he's acting like he knows what's going on.
Yes.
The fact that he's part of the circle that knows what's going on, if he is, that is politicization in itself.
Yes.
That's like telling on yourself.
Yes.
That's what that is.
Unlike the Biden DOJ.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say a bit more about the book history because we don't know for a fact it's about the book, but we're all kind of guessing.
Did you ever read the book?
No.
Yeah, it's no Spring Snow.
It's not going to make the book recommendation.
No, hell no. Spring Snow, though. Put Spring Snow on.
Okay. Well, that's one more.
And if I read any more of that tetralogy, I'll tell you about it.
Okay, so like I said before, Trump tried to declare all conversations with him highly classified. That was the quote, actually. I would consider every conversation with me as president highly classified. So that would mean if he wrote a book and if the book gets out, he's broken the law. And I would think that he would have criminal problems. That's his quote.
Yep.
All right. So Bolton then submitted his book to National Security Council officials for pre-publication review, which is what you're meant to do, to a lady called Ellen Knight, who was the official reviewer. She worked with Bolton for a period of time, I think it was a number of months, to remove all classified material. They did so. They got to the point where Knight was happy to sign off on the book as clean, and then, shock horror, she got sacked just before she could do that officially. And then they got a new reviewer to go over the book. This time, rather than being a person who was an actual reviewer, was qualified and trained to do this, they got a random political appointee to do it instead, called Michael Ellis. And you'll be shocked to hear he thought it wasn't ready for publishing. And he said he found at least 6 examples of classified information, but the concern was, as soon as you deal with those 6, there'll be another 6. Yep. They're just trying to delay until after the election. Because this was getting close to the election at this point in time, right? So Bolton said, no, I want this out before the election. So he told the publisher to go ahead and release the book anyway.
Yep.
Then the National Security Director did he filed an affidavit that said a portion of Bolton's draft implicates information classified at the highest level, the compromise of which could result in the permanent loss of a valuable signal intelligence source and cause irreparable damage to the U.S. signal intelligence system. So it went to court. Federal Judge Royce Lamberth declined to intervene, even though he said that Team Trump essentially he thought they were right that there was classified material. He said it's just the damage is done. It's too late. Just let him publish it.
Yep.
And so he did. Trump investigated him after that for classification violations. It continued on until Biden took over, and then Biden just dropped the charges and just stopped the investigation. Okay, so that's the background. All right. Now, we don't know it's the book because we have learnt since that the information that provided the basis for the warrant. Oh, we should say this. We didn't even say this before. The raid, we know for a fact that courts allowed both raids.
Yes.
The office and the office. So it can't be that bad. I mean, look, they might be bad, but they can't be like completely unfounded.
No.
Because a court has signed off on both of them. Different courts have signed off on both of them. Okay, 2 courts. Yeah, it was, I've forgotten the newspaper, I think it was the New York Times, said that the information that provided the basis for the warrant to search the home was based on intelligence collected overseas by the CIA. They weren't not going into any detail of what that information was or what it pertained to. So who knows what the hell that is? It could be book related. It might not be book related. We just don't know.
From Venezuela?
I don't know. We don't know. So there's a bit of a mystery there. And I think, and I would actually, like, I've been swinging pretty freely during this app because I don't like authoritarianism. But this area, I'm being a bit cautious because we just don't know. And I'm as suspicious as anyone. But, yeah, are you telling me it's impossible to believe that John Bolton could have some mix-ups with some foreign intelligence?
Yeah. When you put it that way.
Of course he could.
Yeah.
I don't know. He hasn't been charged with anything. And if he's never charged with anything, then you can get suspicious. And if he is charged with something and they don't have the goods, then sure. But at this point in time, I just be holding the fire, especially when there are so many other things to get upset about at the moment.
That's true.
Let's focus on the things we know are outrageous, like the Lisa Cook situation.
Yes.
Yeah, so we just don't know at this point in time. We know the New York Post was tipped off about the raid as well. So there's a little bit of partisanship there. But yeah, hey, when the Mar-a-Lago raid happened, CNN were tipped off.
That's true.
This happens in America. Do you have other thoughts about anything else you want to know about
I try
Bolton?
to think about John Bolton as little as possible.
Yeah, look, I think I've pretty much got most of the important stuff here out. So okay. Let's I want to leave this sort of Department of Justice section though with a quote from Jack Goldsmith.
Yep.
Who, you know who he is, but most people don't.
Yes.
He's a Harvard law professor who basically trained most of the legal fraternity in America.
Yeah.
I describe him as a conservative by both temperament and ideology.
Yep.
Like sort of, more sort of classical, sort of old school conservative.
Yep.
He's definitely not instinctively anti-Trump. Like he's defended Trump a lot.
Yes.
But he was on a panel the other day talking about the Department of Justice.
Yep.
And I was quite surprised to hear his take on the Department of Justice when he was there with I've forgotten Ruth Marcus.
Yep.
Yeah, like someone who's she's pretty left wing, and she sounded off on the Department of Justice.
Yeah,
and then I was like, "What do you have to say about the Department of Justice, Jack?" And they were expecting him to go, "Well, come on, she's hyperventilating, she's foaming in the mouth a little bit." And this is what Jack Goldsmith had to say.
It's like an atomic bomb dropped on two things happened. An atomic bomb dropped on the department, as Ruth said. And also, I just want to underscore something Ruth said. There are tens of thousands of lawyers in the massive executive branch spread out whose job is to ascertain the massive array of laws that's supposed to govern executive branch behavior. And you can be cynical about this system, but it always worked, including with the Justice Department, in keeping the White House and the senior executive agencies more or less within the law, with some exceptions. And they have systematically and ruthlessly and successfully eliminated, with one exception, which I'll say, all internal legal resistance. It is simply not acceptable to offer an opinion contrary to the one that the president, who is not a lawyer, wants to push. It's really an extraordinary thing. The exception, and I'll stop here, is the Solicitor General's office. The Solicitor General is the branch, and this is an amazingly interesting fact. The Solicitor General is the branch of the government that argues before the Supreme Court. And it has a very conservative Solicitor General. But the Solicitor General has quite clearly told the White House, we have to play different and play nice with the Supreme Court. And they have been playing different and playing nice to the Supreme Court in ways that's not on board with the way the rest of the Justice Department works. And I could go into this in detail, but it's a remarkable testament to how important the court is seen even by the Trump administration. So I do think that there's still some independent, I know that there is independent judgment being brought to bear in that office, but the rest of it has been decimated in terms of personnel and decimated in terms of independent legal judgment.
Now that was quite restrained because that's Jack Goldsmith.
Yes.
Right? But to me, that was the most eye-opening thing I have seen this entire term.
Yes.
When Jack Goldsmith is talking like that.
Yes.
You go, wow.
Yes.
We've gone a long way. And I just want to acknowledge it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Let's cheer ourselves up.
Yeah.
With some state capitals.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Simpsons fans might know this one.
Oh, God. Kentucky. I should know this. No, I don't remember.
Frankfort.
Oh, God. Okay, next one.
Washington State.
Washington. Oh, come on, Chaz. God, I used to know all these off by heart. Washington. Can we just do North Dakota again? So Washington State was
Olympia.
Oh, come on. Okay, I'm not even going to ask for another one because I'm going to get it wrong.
Just one more.
Okay, fine.
West Virginia.
Oh, no.
Charleston.
You want to edit around that?
No. See, Lockie just, I don't know if you can hear him. Lockie just offered to edit around it. No, I'm going to wear my shame proudly. 0 out of 3. But if you can play the North Dakota one again after that, that'd be great.
Yeah. Do you know the capital of North Dakota?
Bismarck.
Bismarck is correct.
Woo! Okay, so now I'm going to cheer myself up with more random authoritarian stuff that we didn't get to. I know we just dismissed the tweeting, but this was all in one weekend.
Yes.
Dave. First, Chris Christie. I just watched sloppy Chris Christie be interviewed on a ratings challenge news show this week with George Sloppodopoulos on ABC Fake News. Can anyone believe anything a sloppy Chris says? Do you remember the way he lied about the dangerous and deadly closure of the George Washington Bridge in order to stay out of prison, at the same time sacrificing people who worked for him, including a young mother who spent years trying to fight off the vicious charges against her? Chris refused to take responsibility for these criminal acts. For the sake of justice, perhaps we should start looking at that very serious situation again. No one's above the law. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President DJT. Drink. So, just because Chris Christie criticised him, he wants to reopen. He's threatening to reopen an investigation, knowing that the DOJ follows whatever he says.
Yes.
Next one. Despite very high popularity and according to many among the greatest 8 months in presidential history, ABC and NBC Fake News, two of the worst and most biased networks in history, give me 97% bad stories. If that's the case, they are simply an arm of the Democratic Party and should, according to many, have their licenses revoked by the FCC, according to many. I would be totally in favour of that because they are so biased and untruthful, an actual threat to our democracy. MAGA. Yeah, get rid of their licenses.
I like how sometimes he pretends he's all powerful, but at other times he pretends that he actually has no power over this whatsoever.
Someone else should do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Straight after that, Wes Moore tweets about the DC thing. I heard Baltimore was on your mind. We wanted to send you a formal invitation to join Mayor Scott, our local electeds, law enforcement, and community for a public safety walk next month. Whatever date works best for you, we hope you'll come to see how we've built strong local partnerships and used data-backed solutions to deliver staggering drops in violent crime. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Trump responds, Governor Wes Moore of Maryland has asked in a rather nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. I assume he's talking about about out-of-control, crime-ridden Baltimore. As president, I would much prefer that he clean up this crime disaster before I go there for a walk. Baltimore's ranked the 4th worst city in the nation in crime and murder. It's not, by the way. Stop talking and get to work, Wes. I'll then see you on the streets. Also, I gave Wes Moore a lot of money to fix his demolished bridge. I will now have to rethink that decision. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Drink, make America great again. So once again, Wes Moore was actually not even rude.
No.
And the response was, I'm going to defund you with stuff funding I've already given for a disaster.
Wes Moore should have known that Trump walking was a non-starter, but what's Trump going to do? Re-demolish the bridge?
I mean, look, it's garbage, but my point is we get used to this shit.
Yes, yeah.
And we just go, oh, yeah, more of Trump. But just think about for a second what he's doing. Just one after another after another. It's just relentless. Here's another example. Like this is something we just get used to. But I just want you to stop and think for a second about this Steve Witkoff clip. Nothing to me says Banana Republic more than this clip here.
Is nothing short of incredible. And there's only one thing I wish for, that Nobel Committee finally gets its act together and realizes that you are the single finest candidate since the this Nobel Award was ever talked about to receive that reward. Beyond your success is game-changing out in the world today. And I hope everybody one day wakes up and realizes that.
The applause is amazing. I mean, like we take that in our stride these days, but just think for a second. I mean, apart from the fact that the whole top half of Steve Witkoff's body is brown after that.
Yeah.
That's it. Just leave that aside for a second. Trump sat there and allowed his cabinet to applaud him patronizingly.
Of course he did, yes.
Without even so much as a faux protest. Not even, oh, come on, guys. Oh, let's move on, guys. Not even, like he just sat there with a dopey grin, basking in that weak applause.
Yeah.
How humiliating. And these are people, all of those people are people who criticize kindergartners for getting awards for everything to keep them happy. They have a higher standard for kindergartners than they do for the president. It is just so depressing.
It really is.
And then you've got, on top of that, immigration is just full of this kind of stuff. Like Tom Homan last week, the authoritarian statements just flowed freely from him.
President Trump doesn't have a limitation on his authority to make this country safe again. There's no limitation on that.
Yes, there is a limitation on his
authority. It's called the law.
Yes, it's the law. It's the Constitution, Tom. It is just so, there is just one after another. Abrego Garcia is nothing. Do you know what's going on with him?
Yes.
Yeah, just to feel very quickly. For those who don't remember, Kilmar Abrego Garcia may or may not be a member of MS-13. What we know is this. He should never have been sent to El Salvador to be placed in a gulag until he had a protective order removed. They did it anyway. They could have done it quickly, by the way, gotten rid of that protective order. They didn't bother. When the law finally started closing in on them, they brought him back, but only so they could charge him with human trafficking. That's all right. They have the right to do that. They can charge him with human trafficking. Why didn't they charge him before? But fine. All right. Charge him now. They wanted to keep him in jail while the trial went on, but they couldn't demonstrate to the judge he was actually a threat to the community. So the judge wanted to let him go. Then there was this period where the government, they were such sore losers that they half suggested they were going to deport him if he was released, and they weren't quite sure if he was going to get deported or not. So that his own lawyer said, "Just keep him in jail, Christ, rather than deporting him." But the judge finally just said, "This is ridiculous. Send him back to his house. He's not meant to be in jail."
Yes.
And his lawyer says that DOJ then told them that Abrego Garcia could plead guilty to the charges against him and be sent to Costa Rica, which is a country that he's safe in, and at least he speaks their language. Or if he tries to face the charges, he'd immediately be sent to Uganda instead, which is a country that speaks a language he doesn't speak.
Yes.
And it's obviously a much worse country. Well, obviously, it is a worse country in Costa Rica. He elected to face the charges, and the day after they let him go, he was asked to check in at the ICE office, and he did. And they detained him and said they were going to send him to Uganda. Importantly, they don't care whether he's found guilty of these charges or not. They want to send their charges that they laid. They don't care about the conclusion. They want to send him regardless.
And those charges that they laid are incredibly serious. If you actually thought that someone had done the things that he'd been charged with,
yes,
you would not just want to randomly send him to Uganda.
Yes.
You would want him to face justice.
Absolutely. What about the victims?
Yes.
Do they not have a stake in this?
Yeah.
Don't they want justice? A DOJ spokesperson said they're simply working to keep Garcia a clear danger away from law-abiding Americans and hold him accountable for his actions. A federal grand jury has charged Abrego Garcia with serious federal crimes, underscoring the clear danger this defendant presents to the community. This defendant can plead guilty and accept responsibility or stand trial before a jury. Either way, we will hold Abrego Garcia accountable and protect the American people.
Once again, by the way, just to emphasize this, Costa Rica is historically the most peaceful country in Central America. Costa Ricans are very proud of this fact. It's a lot more prosperous than a lot of the other countries in Central America, certainly a lot more prosperous than Uganda. Again, if they were serious about these charges, would the reward for pleading guilty be that you get sent to this relatively good country?
Yeah. That's a good
this
point.
This is a farce.
That is a very, very good point.
Yeah.
Also, it's just such a perversion of justice that they try and punish him for seeking justice from the courts.
Yes.
Like, that is also genuine dictatorship stuff.
Yeah.
If they're insistent on getting rid of him, okay, get rid of him to whatever country. Like, it doesn't have to be Costa Rica. Get rid of him to a reasonable country to get rid of him to. I mean, it could be Costa Rica. If they just want to get rid of him, then who cares where it is, right? But that they're intentionally trying to come up with the worst possible option for him, to punish him, simply because he's availing himself of his constitutional rights.
Yes.
That's sick.
Yes.
That is just sick. And the court, once again, of course, stopped them deporting him to Uganda.
Yes.
But, like, they're just waiting for their opportunity. Just remember, they couldn't convince the judge he was a threat to the community at all.
Yes.
Noam said President Trump is not going to allow this illegal alien who's an MS-13 gang member, human trafficker, serial domestic abuser, and child predator to terrorize American citizens any longer. If he's terrorizing people, why can't you prove it in court? And by the way, he had an electronic monitoring bracelet on anyway. He wasn't going anywhere.
No.
And I just want to say, I'm not one of those people who wants to act like he's a hero or prejudge his innocence. I'm not saying that. As I've said many times, I suspect he is guilty of human trafficking.
Yeah.
I actually do think that. It doesn't matter. Civilized nations follow the rule of law.
Yes.
And just America's becoming less civilized. You know,
Yes.
it's anything else here? I've got so many things here.
Yeah, like I got to go.
I've got one clip for you. There's 1 minute left for you, Dave.
Okay.
You guys have heard about the review Trump subjecting the Smithsonian Museum to?
Yep.
Okay. I want you to see Lindsay Halligan, who's the one conducting the review. She's not a think tank person or a historian. She's not like Christopher Rufo type. She's an insurance lawyer who was deployed by Trump to lie on his behalf when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago. And now she's been given the title Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy and the Special Assistant to the President and Senior Associate Staff Secretary, whatever that means. And this is who Trump is going to reimagine the Smithsonian's 21 museums, 21 libraries, 14 research centers, 1 zoo, and 157 million items. This lady.
Like just about every other country in the world, the United States has got a checkered past. I mean, what should we do in terms of our museum? Should we ignore that? Should that be massaged in a certain way to make it less significant? I mean, some of the worst episodes in our history were formative experiences that led us to where we are today, and those typically are reflected in museums.
Yep, I think the fact that we had our country was involved in slavery is awful. No one thinks otherwise. But what I saw when I was going through the museums personally was an overemphasis on slavery. And I think there should be more of an overemphasis on how far we've come since slavery. Our country is a country of progress, and it's the greatest country in the world. And we should be able to take our kids, our students through the Smithsonian and feel proud when we leave. There's a lot of history to our country, both positive and negative, but we need to keep moving forward. We can't just keep focusing on the negative. All it does is divide us, and we really need to unite the country and focus on all the positive as we approach America's 250th birthday.
That is what authoritarians do, Dave.
Yep.
They hire flunkies to do jobs they are wholly unqualified for, and they make a joke of all of us.
Yes.
I'm sorry that this was such a negative podcast. It was a bit of a downer. Hopefully next week there'll be more ups, more trivia. I'll research my capitals and I'll be ready.
Yeah.
Dave, thank you so much.
My pleasure. I dread to think what she's going to do to the zoo. And just one final thing before I go. I know there's going to be a lot of fans of Belize who say, how dare you say that Costa Rica is the most peaceful country in Central America? Yeah, Belize also very, very good.
I was going to write some correspondence myself.
Yes. All right. Stay
Till
peppy.
next week, stay peppy.